Meyer backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Tried to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. 365 Sports on this Wednesday afternoon. Later in the show, the U.S. Open at Oakmont in Pennsylvania. We'll have our lottery picks coming up today as the NBA draft is. There's what, in about a week or two. We'll do that. Rob Bolton from the PGA Tour.com will join us at that time. But we do have a lot to get to. There's a rankings of the Big 12 quarterbacks. We'll get to that and discuss that and chew on that too quite some time. Scott Draper, Big 12 Chief Football and Operations Officer, will join us today at 4:45. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left, Garrett Ross and Andrew Valade running the mothership today. So, again, I know, and I remember, Craig, you and I traded a text or two about the guests coming up this week or whatever, or, what had been discussed, the House settlement Friday. But, we do want to separate from that if we possibly can. But while there's still questions on the table and new ones that we knew would come up, we have to discuss it, including this from Amanda Kristovich, who we've had on many times. A group of women sports athletes will file an appeal on the House versus NCAA settlement, arguing that it violates the Title IX gender equity statute. Now, we're going to have another follow-up to that in a second. I'm not the smartest brick in the wall. My elevator shaft does not always go up to the top floor. But I mentioned this a long, long time ago that if anything would somewhat derail it or have a problem with it, it would be the Title IX, and here we are today with this.
Well, it's going to be interesting because it didn't really take into account Title IX that much at all. And the other problem that they have, at least currently, is that the current administration is trying to close down the Department of Education, the department that oversees all Title IX stuff. So where that even goes, or if that even happens, who knows? Like there are so many questions about that in particular part of it right now. But, we had Amanda on Monday. She was our first guest. And I said, is the first lawsuit out of the box going to be Title IX? And she said, probably, because there's no allowing for how to make Title IX work with this. And because it's revenue sharing, you are going to get percentage of the revenues that you bring in. Well, football and men's basketball bring in the most revenue, so they're going to get the highest revenue share. That is not applicable to Title IX, at least in the way that most schools see it, because they don't see this as an opportunity that you're not getting. They see this as, there's a sport there for you. You're going to get paid through the revenue share. You're going to get a percentage of that, but your percentage is smaller because your revenue is smaller. But I don't think that a lot of people see it that way, because a lot of times it can be used as an excuse to not pay people equally.
Well, here's another follow-up tweet from Brandon Marcello from the filing, and Craig, your response on this too. Basically, what Marcello put down, the House settlement allocates $2.4 billion to men, $102 million to women. Lee Ernst Freistedt wrote in a statement to CBS Sports, the significant disparity constitutes a violation of the Title IX.
Yeah, going back to what we talked about in terms of guests, I said, I know we got to talk about some of this legal stuff, but we need to talk some football as well. And there needs to be a balance. And I think there can be a balance, but I understand why for a couple of days there, it was all about this, because this is what we've been waiting on. But I know that I can't be the only one that gets eyes glazed over after a certain point of like, just this is all you hear about. And so, yeah, I think there's got to be a balance, and we'll try to provide that as best as we can, so that you get a little bit of everything. And we cover everything because we're interested in all aspects of it. But you can go down a slope of just focusing too much on something, and we're not lawyers. So I'll say that to say, I don't know what any of this means, guys. I don't know the intricacies of this. I know there's quite a few people who, with lots of confidence, say that Title IX is not going to matter moving forward. I don't know that they're totally right. I don't think that they have a great outcome as far as those suing right now. I don't think this is going to go in their favor based on reading the tea leaves. But how that goes about getting done and how that gets decided, I have no earthly idea. That's just not in my wheelhouse. Okay. So that's not in my toolkit. Things like this, my brain just stops operating really. So yeah, it was known even for simpletons like me that this was going to be one of the first, if not the first issues that arose from this. But a lot of the reaction that I have read is not really taking this as too much of a serious threat. Like they don't feel like this is all going to get toppled because of Title IX per se. And there's some intricacies as to why, but yeah, this is the first of many battles that will be coming their way, and we are on the other side of this new era after this past weekend. But as we all know, that doesn't mean the stopping of lawsuits. In fact, it could probably expedite even more than we saw before, and so that's the waters we're about to wade into, is all of these new lawsuits over the new settlement. And how that goes about getting decided will obviously have big ramifications on how all this works moving forward. But yeah, that's a concern that was always out there and that you brought up quite a bit.
All right, so there we are with that. There's just a couple of things. And then there are still little flares that are a part of the settlement. This one, Charlie Baker, Garrett brought this up when I was speaking with Scott Drew. I didn't get as much time to get to this one, but the Charlie Baker tells reporters, NCAA president, that there are concerns from schools that international athletes could be violating their student visas if they get paid through revenue sharing. NCAA working through that. Now, I did see an update from Ross Dellinger on this specific note, and it was that that Baker does feel like there is something where they can be paid, that they're still working on a couple of tweaks, but that it's not as like, oh my God, they're not going to be able to get paid. He feels like that's not going to be an issue in the end.
I think that they'll find a way around it. But wouldn't this be, if you're going to write a law, something to put into that law? I mean, since international players, and I think like of all the things I've heard, like this keeps getting brought up and they do keep getting left out of it. But you do have that, especially now. Tennis has always been like this. Track is like this. Basketball is getting more and more like this, where, I mean, go to a college tennis match and tell me how many kids percentage-wise are from the good old US of A. It's a lower percentage than every other sport by a long shot. Track meets are the same way. And, you know, swimming and, you know, all the Olympic sports, obviously, but basketball in particular is getting like this. And why I point out basketball is, well, you're going to make more money if you're a 7'3" center from Greece than if you're a tennis player from Czechoslovakia. So, you know, that there's differences here. And I would think, especially some of those big money schools that are getting big time athletes, like Duke just got Dame Sar from Italy, that he's getting NIL. He's not coming over here on a student work visa program on an exchange. He's not an exchange student. He's coming over here to get better and go to the NBA. That's what Dame Sar is trying to do. And so he's going to get paid. How they do that. So I think if you're going to write a law that codifies all this stuff, maybe you should work that in, an exemption for the student visas.
Yeah, I mean, I said yesterday, and I thought about it last night just for a second, that I gave people the benefit of the doubt that they will keep Olympic sports in mind, because the one thing that America loves to do as much as anything else, making money, for example, is to win. I think those kind of are two things that people clearly love more than anything else in this country, is money and winning. And so you would think that something like the Olympics, especially such a patriotic event, you would do what you can to protect that, so that here in a couple years, and I don't even know where we are in the calendar in the top of my head now, but whenever the next event is and the ones that follow that could be affected by this, you would think that if we sit there and all of a sudden getting our ass kicked and we're not winning as many medals, people go like, what's the deal? It's like, well, you kind of chopped apart all of the training grounds for these athletes to win in swimming and soccer and everything else. And so I don't think anybody wants that. So I give them the benefit of the doubt that they will keep that in mind, but I also know there's 1,000 plates in the air, and I don't know why I would give the benefit of the doubt to people who haven't proven they always do the common, most simple thing. So, yeah, you would think the simple thing here would be to just write it however that works, again, out of my wheelhouse, but you would think that would be addressed at the onset, and not something that's another one of those, well, how did we think of that? Like, so it's out there. So, yeah, why don't you get to work and do your due diligence on making sure that's not an issue that pops up in the future? But how that gets done, I have no idea. I'll leave that to the folks making money to do those things.
Charlie Baker also adding, the NCAA believes that international college athletics or athletes can receive revenue share from their schools in the new era. But again, they still have some work to do.
Yeah, and I'm talking about the Olympics, and I know I'm looking at it from an American point of view, and you're talking about international students, but I think that, just in general, you want to do what's best, and there's a lot of colleges that are going back to winning in money that win tennis titles because of the Croatians they brought in, or the Russians they brought in, or the Ukrainians they brought in, or whatever, and that goes to soccer, that goes sometimes to basketball. Like, the only sport I feel like we probably don't ever see it really is football, and I'm not sure in baseball. I don't really look at the rosters all that often. Probably not very much, because a lot of the international players go minor leagues and start making money.
Yeah, when they're 16, they're going.
Yeah, they're already playing for money at that point. So why, go to Baylor, Texas Tech, or wherever. But yeah, I mean, that needs to be a part of that same due diligence and the thinking ahead of time to address it before it becomes an issue. And yeah, we want our Olympic sports to be strong. We want international athletes to be able to come over here and better their game and also better our own programs. And so I don't see why there should be an issue in getting all of those things done and doing so and being aware of it before it becomes something that is suddenly a much bigger issue than it needs to be.
One more part of the House settlement that is has not sprung a leak or anything, but a slight change on a deadline for Division I schools to decide whether to opt into the House settlement for next year has been moved back a couple of weeks to June 30th. It was supposed to be June the 15th, which, by the way, would be this weekend. For opt-in schools, revenue share can begin on July the 1st. Also, more update on that. D1 schools are afforded the choice to opt into the settlement or not. Those choosing not to opt in are not permitted to share revenue, but do not have to adhere to the new roster limits. So there's an option there. Opt-outs, however, are required to submit NIL deals through the new clearinghouse. And so that I did text Ross when I saw these two tweets, and I think I could have answered this myself, but I wanted to get a little note from him. I said, so how many out of the 100 and let's say 30 plus football schools in Division I, FBS, have opted out? Have you guys heard of anybody? He said it'll be very, like maybe, I don't even know if it'll get to a handful. It may get your thumb and forefinger, and that's it as far as schools. Now, we've heard ADs go, man, we just can't do this much longer, but I haven't heard anybody that has actually said we're not going to be a part of that.
I wouldn't think it would be the initial. I think it would be once people get into it and realize, crap, we can't really do this, and this isn't doable. But right now, it's a blank sheet of paper, and you can assume that something happened here. My earphones go out. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my earphones just went out.
That's
but
right.
I would assume that where was we?
Where were we?
I would just
Isn't
take
that
them off
weird
for right now,
when you
Craig, so
can't hear
us,
yourself? It's like a singer when they're trying to sing and the earpiece comes out. They can't anymore. So Craig had a little bit of a short or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people get off to doing this at the start, and then maybe they come to realize that it's not feasible any longer. But I wasn't ever expecting a bunch of people before we even start this process with all the unanswered questions to go like, no, we're out. I just you must be just a unique situation to where you already know that this is just completely off board. You're not even going to attempt to do it. So yeah, I always assume most people would attempt to at least do it. And then if it doesn't work out, you pivot. But to just say you're out from the very beginning, I don't think that's really in mind for most schools.
Also, this came down yesterday evening. Ohio State launching Buckeye Sports Group to enhance their NIL opportunities. This is basically in-house. News coming on the heels of that House settlement. With the creation of Buckeye Sports Group, Ohio State will now consolidate the school's two existing NIL collectives, the 1870 Society and also the foundation, into what they will do and team up with Learfield Sports.
Yeah, they we actually had this on Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, they actually had this plan. Clearly, they were working on it for a long time because they were ready to go as soon as the House settlement hit. It's very similar to what Texas Tech is doing, rolling it in. And Learfield, who negotiates all their advertising rights and all that, will now negotiate some NIL for them. And I'm sure that they'll do that well in hopefully competitively, which I would think they would at Learfield. That's a big company. But all this is to say that, yes, the NIL collective and all that stuff is in-house, and they'll run it through in-house. But the bottom line, it's still, if they don't get the money the guys are wanting and somebody's out there willing to give it to them, they're going to go find it.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know you guys had that on Monday. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Also, this is interesting. You can see a lot of these graphics, images, top 5, 10, 20, whatever. But this is from College Football Report. They have a huge following of about 150,000 people on their X account. This is going to create a lot of discussion inside the chat room. And also, if you want, we're also, of course, on Twitter and the YouTube channel, ranking Big 12 starting quarterbacks. This could go on for hours. We will have Ari Temkin on at 4 to get his feedback on this a little bit, but you guys go after it. And look at where Noah Fafita is, who was probably among the top 3 to 4 last year, entering the year at number 13. Go.
To just address that pretty quickly, he is going in without
his dude.
Yeah, I mean it's like Maverick without Goose. So it's not ideal, for them. But we'll see what they've got. I am surprised to see Sawyer Robertson at the top over Sam Levitt, but I do think that the top 5 is pretty dead on. I mean, as far as who the top 5 are
they all interchangeable? You could go 1 through 5, or take 4, 2, 3, 5, 1, or
I think so. I think so. And Jalen Daniels below Brendan Sorsby in that crew. I don't agree with, but I mean, he's still in the top 10. And I've been very bullish on my predictions on Devin Dampier in Utah. I think that'll be really good. And I think Connor Wegman will finish this year higher than 12th in the league. This is my prediction.
Yeah, College Football Report's got a big audience. They, got a lot of good play off that Aranda quote they didn't attribute to us last summer. Yeah. So shout out to them for that.
Take that down, Garrett.
No, that's fine. Whatever. Aggregating and all that. But yeah, Sawyer Robertson at number 1 and Sam Levitt at number 2, I think would be something you could flip-flop if you really wanted to. I'm interested to see. Sawyer's got a weird throwing style that I think I don't know how quarterback coaches in the future, like when he's getting broken down as a prospect, I'm interested to see kind of how they comment on that. But I do think those are 2 guys that you could feel really strongly about placing at 1 and 2 or 2 or backwards, like I said. And then I think the rest of it, I mean, it's all very close. It's all very, very close. There's not a lot of separation. There's not just those couple guys that are first-round guaranteed draft picks. I mean, Sam Levitt's arguably based on that right now in the mock drafts, which I don't know how accurate those things are at this point, but he would be the top guy because of that look at the NFL future. But, I think I'd probably have him at 1, actually. And then Sawyer, Rocco, Hoover, Johnson, I think are all in kind of a group together there for me. So you could arrange those however you wanted to. And then I do think you get into the Baron Mortons and I don't know. I think it's all. Without trying to get too detailed, I think it's all pretty fair. Retzlaff at 7. I don't know. I think it's all just so even that it's kind of hard to separate, and we could go hours on this. So yep. I think Utah fans would probably believe Devin Dampier will be much higher than this. I think Jalen Daniels, obviously, his health will play a big factor, but to see a Noah Fafita near the bottom after the kind of play coming into last year is very interesting. I don't know if I'd have Haas Haney over Nico Marchiol when Marchiol's played a lot more at this point. And Haney, we've seen very little to nothing of. Definitely would have Taven Jackson at 16, though. That's the one that I think you can fairly say is that's the.
And he's just the name that they put there. He meant right, or the guy. Yeah.
Put UCF quarterback at 16. I think is the one that we can all agree on is the no doubter as of this very moment. So yeah, that's a interesting league of quarterbacks. I mean, we could go all sorts of different directions with it, but I think the top 2 are good. Just would reverse them. I think 16's dead on, and then the rest of it, just let everybody argue about it. Quite frankly,
it's a great bar, a sports bar, or tailgating, or even podcast discussion. Of all those 16, if you don't mind leaving that up, Garrett, think about all the ones who have transferred: Robertson, Levitt,
Sorsby, Dampier,
Caden Salter, Wigman, and Haney,
and
Marchiol, and Taven Jackson.
Marchiol didn't.
No, Marchiol, that's right. He was there originally.
Yeah.
And then Taven Jackson's been at a couple of schools, Tennessee and also Indiana. So about 10 to 11, 12 of them out of that list that have transferred in, which is, of course, part of what it's like in college football. But the news that you have someone who's like 7 or 8 or 12 says quite a bit about what we've discussed. Now, can they go out and perform again on the field in 2025, how deep the conference is at quarterback? Also, we mentioned Deion Sanders. His son had mentioned that he had not been doing very well, but he was okay, but had been going through a health issue. He then, wow, I'm truly blessed by the abundance of well wishes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can assure you all that everything is okay, will continue to be so. God got me like no other. And then went on to say, I'm excited to get back to Colorado to be home with my staff, team, and all associated to our program. When we arrive back to Boulder, you will be updated on everything. I'm coming, baby. Coach Prime.
That's good to hear, and when I heard it, it didn't sound like anything that was going to keep him away, but he has battled some health problems over the last couple of years, particularly when it comes to circulation. He had some toes amputated because of that. So, but yeah, best to Coach Prime, and looking forward to seeing him in Frisco.
Yeah, it was very just generic kind of the wording yesterday. Didn't know if it was something too serious or not. And obviously don't wish ill will on anybody. And so I'm glad that it's nothing too serious and he can get to work when the time comes to be there on campus and doing what he needs to do. And I think that's great. It's a positive update. You really don't know with somebody who's had all sorts of issues like he's had and also is just getting older in general. So glad it's nothing too scary and we can, see him on the sidelines this fall doing his thing for better or worse.
Maybe we'll see him. I don't know if we'll see him in Frisco with Big 12 Media Days the 8th and 9th of July with where the Cowboys have their facility at the Star. Couple of 3 basketball notes is that some of the sneak peeks. John Rothstein, KU will play Arizona, Iowa State, and in-state rival Jerome Tang, Kansas State twice during the Big 12 conference schedule during the upcoming season. Also, Joseph Duarte saying that Houston will play Texas Tech. They'll play twice during Big 12 play. Remember now, there are some schools that can only play once because of the algorithm and also the schedule. And then I did see this that Rothstein also added that Houston will play Texas Tech, Baylor, and Cincinnati twice in Big 12 play. A lot of that's being leaked out, and of course, it'll all be official at some point. But those are some notes for Big 12 men's basketball. I did see. Can you go back to the original one, Garrett, that Kansas will play Arizona, Iowa State, in-state rival K-State? One of the KU writers was like, as Michael Swaim, how in the world are KU and Houston not going to play twice? Well, there's going to be schools that can't play twice. I get what you'd want there, but at the same time, not everybody can play each other home and away.
Well, I mean, if you wanted to do that, you'd have to rig it up to where just the teams you assumed were going to be great every year just play each other round robin, basically, and then you leave the bottom half to play each other and just completely tank the perception of your league's depth. Mm-hmm. I mean, right? So, yeah, let's have Kansas and Iowa State and Baylor and what people expect BYU to be great next year. Let's have all those teams just play each other. It'd be like the SC going, all right, Georgia, Texas, Bama, LSU, whatever couple more you want to throw in there. You all play each other, and the Vanderbilt plays, whoever, and so Kentucky, right? The Vanderbilt will play Kentucky, and then all that. I know football's not a great comparison, but that's just that's kind of what you would need to do to make that possible for everybody across the board is the point. So yeah, when you have these big leagues, that's one of the downsides. That's one of the downsides that was pointed out is you're not going to play everybody every year in football, and in basketball, you're not going to be able to play everybody home and away. So the way the Big 12 was there for a little while and others were at times was ideal if you wanted to see things like that, but not in these big mega conference eras. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but damn, man, you're still getting a lot of great games based on, I saw the Kansas purview, like with Rothstein here, and I saw Jason Shear tweeting about Arizona and the great matchups they're going to have. And then here's Houston, they'll get Tech twice, Baylor twice, Cincy twice. We'll see how good Cincy is as, they're going
to be pretty good in basketball.
As they try to keep climbing the ladder. But I think it's fun to see these start to pop up, and you can start previewing next year and get a good idea, good wrap around who you're going to be playing. So still some dynamic matchups, but yeah, it could be better if you could play all the best teams home and away, but yeah, it's just not feasible.
And then you might have to play at Allen Fieldhouse, but not play them at your place, and vice versa with KU elsewhere. And then because they're successful, we had Pat Hallmark after UTSA stunned Texas, or maybe it wasn't because they were just better in that regional round in Austin. Remember what he said to us. We asked him about the facilities and the support. We've heard Jeff Traylor have to kind of beat that drum a little bit when it came to football. Head coach Pat Hallmark, this is from Ryan Sports. Pat Hallmark tells me his contract is up. He wants to stay in San Antonio, wants better support for the program. Extension talks are ongoing, and they're off that, of course, 47-win season and NCAA regional championship. They got knocked out by UCLA pretty quickly, but they have had a run, and he made it clear with us that he does hope that they can start to get much more support in many ways.
And that says Nate, not Water. I can see where it's kind of confusing.
Okay, yeah.
It's not Water Ryan, that's Nate Ryan, but yeah.
Or Naterin.
Yeah. Or maybe Nader Yan Sports. I don't know, but definitely not Water. I could see where it kind of looks that way. I have no idea how it all works big picture, but would UTSA be a good candidate for private equity? given that their big downfall is they don't have enough money to satisfy their coaches in NIL, but they win despite that.
Yeah, they do.
And so that if you pump some money into it, like, here's the part where this is why I'm not a financial analyst. God, I wish I was. Or actually, I wish I was a college sports lawyer right now. That'd be freaking awesome. Wish I would have had that foresight. But I don't know. Maybe that would actually be the death of them, taking on a bunch of money and having to pay it back with interest. But it just seems to me Ohio State doesn't need all that extra money. They just want it because they want to have more than their competitors, right? But they don't actually need it. UTSA seems to need some money to stay where they are. Jeff Traylor talks about it in practically every interview that I've ever seen from him. He brings up their NIL situation. Now you've got the baseball coach who just took them, to great lengths talking about it as well. So I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off base, but it just seems like that would be a team that actually isn't, that actually could get the most bang for your buck and then overshoot what you even thought was possible if they got a little cash injection and have had enough success that if you give them more money, why couldn't they keep doing what they're doing? Because you keep the coaches in place who have already been extremely successful. So I don't know. Maybe I'm off base, like I said, but that just seems more. Seems more private equity. It makes more sense for them than it does for Texas to go get private equity.
So, Texas doesn't need private equity. Right. Again, Ohio State doesn't need private equity. Like, what you do is I think you start in the Big 12 and ACC, those schools, like closing the gap between those two. That would be a thing. And then you get into the group of 5 and there's an even larger gap that they need to close. And so if you can close that, especially for a sport that you're pretty damn good at, and get them a stadium and keep the coach there who doesn't want to leave, and you're in a place that give those sports fans something to do. They've shown that they'll go. They fill up the Alamo Dome for the football games. They'll go. That is very much San Antonio's local team. They enjoy it. So yeah, give them something to do.
They've got a good following, but they don't have the whole city of San Antonio by any stretch of the imagination. They're still a Longhorn town more than anything else, and then a scrambling of others. But UTSA's got a good base, but it's not. It's not the whole of San Antonio by any stretch.
There's civic pride there that it goes.
There's some civic pride. I just don't know how big picture large it is.
I don't want to compare it to DFW with SMU and TCU, but those have their certain type of fans and backing. But it's Oklahoma, Texas, and A&M.
I would think it's larger than SMU and Dallas. But probably equivalent to TCU and the DFW. Maybe I don't. Maybe slightly larger than TCU. I don't have any idea other than they're not like San Antonio's team.
No, and it's a city. It's a pro sports city.
But they do have enough support to be successful and to continue to grow and to do some cool stuff. And they've already done really cool stuff. And so, I get where he's coming from and where Jeff Traylor's coming from is like, hey, what we're doing is all pretty great. We could do even better if we had more. And at some point, though, every coach is asking for more and more and more. It's like that's the problem they've run into, I think, is that they've been so successful so quickly that to be further successful, you need to add more. And I don't know that they're capable of doing that. So that's why the private equity thing, it pops in my head. But
the Office fans saying this, Craig, I don't see any benefit from private equity to invest into UTSA until they get into a better conference and have an established alumni network. Now, they're in the AAC, which is not a Power 4. The Pac-12 is on the verge of maybe getting back to that as a power conference. We don't know. But that's just a thought from Office fan, but it brought up some discussion in the chat room.
Well, that's why I admit when I don't really fully know things of I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but that's what just struck me was their potential to do more with more. So, that makes more sense that because the other side does need their return on investment. You're right. So I wasn't thinking from that point of view. And, you would need to be probably in a bigger league to get that type of return they're looking for, because they're not also looking for pennies on the dollar. They're looking for dollars on the dollar in their return investment. So, thanks for pointing that out.
What I would point out, though, it's much more beneficial for UTSA right now than probably the private capital, unless they're going to invest in that entire conference,
right,
like they talked about with the Big 12, where their goal is to grow that conference, and that's where they'll see the return.
And there's just no feasible way the Americans ever going to live up to that and become like an autonomy conference. So, that would be pointless. You can see where the Big 12 is coming from with the whole closing the gap thing. You mentioned that a couple times, though. I do think you have to be very careful if you're chasing a car that never stops.
Yeah, exactly.
And this whole, we got to close the gap. Well, again, the easiest thing to point out is, okay, go do that. And if it works, guess what the gap leaders are going to do?
Yeah.
They're going to go do it too. And then the gap's back to what it was. So I don't think there is a closing of the gap that's possible by just getting money injected. I think the closing of the gap has to come with what I always go back to, winning. Mm-hmm. That's the only way to close the gap. But yeah, if you have Redbird Capital's like, we're going to give you $1 billion, then why would so-and-so Capital not do that for the Big Ten? Because they know they're going to get their money back in tenfold. So yeah, that's the problem with trying to constantly chase the car. It's just, I don't know, a race that never ends. It feels like, but you can whittle it down. I just don't ever think you're going to quote unquote close the gap and be on even par just by an investment. I think you have to work your way and earn your way and win your way there more than anything else.
The Big Ten has been around for what seemed like as long as the United States. And they also are in some very large markets, even though maybe Champaign, Illinois is not Chicago. They're in some huge markets. That's why when they did develop the Big Ten Network, and of course our good friend Bob Thompson was a major part of that, they have some monstrous TV type markets that they are a part of. And some of the other ones do too. The Pac-12 when it had UCLA and USC, of course, LA, but that's a pro sports town. You go to USC games when they became hip, when they were a big deal. UT San Antonio was founded in 1969. They're 56 years old.
They're young.
They're incredibly young. They have 35,000 students, but again, at the same time,
they're fighting against history.
The athletic part of their history is even much younger than 1969.
Yeah, they're fighting against history. It's like a program that suddenly becomes really good in football, and they're like, oh, we're really great in football. How long have you been great in football? For like 10 years. It's like, that's nothing compared to the 75 years that somebody else, it's just not, you can't just, be that quick. So, yeah, I mean, they're a young school that has an even younger athletic department compared to a lot of their peers, and they've done an incredible job with the time that they have been going at it and trying to win. They've won a lot, and I think they've got a very bright future, but based on their own head coaches, it all comes back to their fan base and their donors, and right now they're getting enough, but they need more to try to be something even greater and grander, and that's where they're at a crossroads, I think. But it is a school that's done a lot with what they have.
They began practicing football in August of 2010.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's like yesterday.
Yeah.
That's not very long ago.
Okay, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Would you rather be an AD that has to go answer to a private equity firm, or would you rather have to constantly go and chase donors? I think that's one of the reasons.
You're doing both still, aren't you?
But if you had to choose,
one seems to take a lot more energy than the other.
Yeah,
now, that doesn't mean it's the right decision.
No, but I think that's part of the reason that private equity might be more attractive is because I don't have to, keep calling these same 5 guys and be like, Herb, you got another $2 million? I need this. You could just.
Well, I guess you don't have to really play the political game as much. So if that's not really your bag, or you're not a big relationships guy, you're probably not an athletic director to begin with, because you got to do both those things. But I do think, if it's what's going to cause my phone to ring less, is probably would be the capital. But then again, if they're not seeing what they want to see, then you're going to be hearing from them plenty. Where's my money, right? So I don't think either one of those are too terribly different, but I don't know. That's a good question. I ask Jeremiah Dickey or whoever we have on next as an athletic. Well, they probably won't answer it right at this stage. Actually, that'll be a non-answer. But
I think I'll just text Jeff Traylor or Coach Hallmark and say, has this ever been discussed? Tell me on or off the record. Have you guys ever actually thought about this as an option? Don't know. Not sure what they'll say. Craig Way today at 4:25. We'll have Ari Temkin today at 4. And then, Scott Draper from the Big 12 will join us at 4:45. We have Rob Bolton on the U.S. Open. We'll make our picks. Emory is incognito today, still working and putting together what we have every night, 10:30 on the CW, with 4 of the best segments or topics or both. He'll join us on the U.S. Open draft at around 5:25 or so. Garrett Ross and also Andrew Valade. Andrew's already put up one of the polls today. He'll put up 2, and then later in the show, we will see the poll results as we get them. Coming up, It's a topic for the day. We were going to do a little bit with that college quarterback, the Big 12 quarterbacks, but Grace Rayner from theathletic.com, she wrote an article, 10 roster moves that shaped the Big 12 football offseason. We'll go over some of those, get your feedback in the chat room, and also our feedback here. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Men, as you get older, 1 out of every 3 to 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone as it drops inside your body. It's just part of what can happen. So what can Dr. Petty do? Increase that. If your testosterone level is too low, he can help raise it up so you can also get away from some of those symptoms, including your sex drive or ED or sleep habits or energy. It's not the same. So what do you do to find that out? Contact Petty Clinic, lowt.com online. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work, take care of that for you, get the results. And if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you, Dr. Petty, in a program so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
With Employee Pricing Plus at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive home a new Chrysler Dodge Jeep or Ram with smoking hot deals that slay the competition. Only at Allen Samuels. You're going to love it here.
Come by. Let's be friends.
I'll never get used to this.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
The Jeep Celebration event is on at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get the luxurious 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer with a huge $13,000 dealer discount plus 0% financing. Or take home a 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, $15,000 off or 0% for 72 months. Plus, drive a 2025 Jeep Compass for just $25,900. Big savings, legendary Jeeps. Only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Hope you've had a great day. Hope we give you the entertainment content that you want here on this show. every weekday afternoon, 3 until 6 Central Time. We appreciate you. So Grace Rayner from theathletic.com wrote an article about 10 roster moves that shaped the Big 12 football offseason. I'm going to go over one. They're not in order. I'm not going to do them in order. I'm just going to list them. And Craig, Paul, and I will kind of discuss them a little bit. And including you, want to hear your feedback in the chat room. Tag me so I'll make sure I know you're talking about this specific topic and maybe not something else. Let's go to one. Utah signs New Mexico quarterback transfer Devin Dampier.
Yeah, I think that's a massive move for them. The big question mark all last season was their offense, particularly quarterback, particularly even more so the specific health of Cam Rising. And that's no longer the case because he's gone to whatever awaits him on the other side of college football. And now Devin Dampier's the guy. And I think there's no limit on the excitement that I've seen coming from various corners of Utah media and fandom ever since he signed. A belief that he can really be a difference maker and a star for them. Has a lot of reps under his belt as a dynamic guy. And you do the whole inexact science of, well, they should have a good defense because they're Utah, but they probably should. And they should have a great offensive line. And so you have a dual threat quarterback coming in that you don't have to worry about hopefully every week, and enough quality skill players. That sounds like a recipe for a pretty good football team, certainly a much better football team than they had last year. So, I there's a lot of excitement, I think, for good reason.
Paul, let me ask you, you've been high on him. Dampier, like Johnson at K-State, will need to be more accurate after throwing 12 interceptions and completing under 60% of his passes in 2024.
Yeah, but I mean, look, this is a redshirt freshman last year, so you kind of expect that a little bit. I think he'll get better. I think especially the way that Kyle Whittingham believes in running the ball and always has, that will help him a lot. Look, Utah does not need their defense to be as good as it's been the last 3 years if they get something out of the offense. I mean, the quarterback has been this black hole of nothing since Cam Rising's injury in the Rose Bowl a few years ago. And so now if they get production out of that quarterback position, even, averaging 21 points a game with a defense that, usually gives up 17 is going to lead you to more wins. So they don't necessarily have to have that kind of shutdown, lockdown defense that they have if the offense is a little bit better. So I think, again, I assume their defense will be at least efficient. I mean, if not dominant, but they'll at least be efficient. Their offense can now possibly score some points, which is going to change the dynamic of Utah in the Big 12, because for 2 years they haven't had the same quarterback start more than 3 games in a row.
All right. Colorado revamps its quarterback depth. They, of course, brought in Caden Salter. Shedeur Sanders is gone. He's in the NFL with the Cleveland Browns. They bring in Salter from Liberty, throws for 1,886 yards and also ran for nearly 600 in 2024. Four-star quarterback Julian Lewis enrolled in December after flipping from USC. Lewis was the number 50 prospect and number 6 quarterback overall for the 2024 class.
Deion should always have skill talent, and I think that would be when you start to get maybe concerned about the trajectory of the program, is when they don't have some guys that you think can come in and play, and you do believe that they do right now, as they should. And I just think the big question there is just the relationship factor of the familiarity of Shedeur, right? And the safety blanket almost that he feels like or felt like because of that familiarity. So just not having that connection, it just makes it so wildly different. And so I don't quite know what to expect. Just seeing Deion coach somebody else that's not his son, who's been his quarterback for 6-7 years in a row or whatever the hell it's actually been. I know it's not that crazy, but they've been a combination for a long while. So it's just going to be really new and fresh and unique to see initially, but they do have talent. I'm very interested in how Salter translates over from Liberty. He did not have as nearly good of a year last year as he had the year prior when they made the run to the Fiesta Bowl and got just mollywopped by Oregon. Last year, a lot more forgettable in some ways. So he's a very talented player, Texas kid, originally went to Tennessee, got booted, ended up at Liberty and carved out a nice career there. He'll be the starter. I'm not banking on Julian Lewis too much as a true freshman right out of the gates, but not a bad option to have to pivot to. So, yeah, I think that's a real big, interesting question mark for Colorado is just the lack of the prior relationship like you had with Shedeur.
Alan Tran, among others, but I'm not high on West Virginia. Rich Rod was a desperate rehire. Well, one of those on the list by Grace Rayner.
Before we get to that,
can
I comment on this? I think that Colorado, for Caden Salter, needs to get a running game. Like Shedeur
he'll be part of it.
Yeah, Shedeur was really good at winning without one, and so if they don't do that, it's gonna really. I think it's going to put Salter back a little bit because while I think he'll be fine as the quarterback, we said this many times, this is the best schedule he will ever have played in college football as a starter, and it's not even close.
All right, West Virginia overhauls its roster under Rich Rod, which I said was in a couple of comments in the chat. Return to West Virginia, one of the more fascinating developments of the offseason. Mountaineers will have an entirely different roster. 40-plus players having transferred out and 30-plus transferring in, including 25 high school prospects the program has signed.
So the first two are based around the quarterbacks, and this is based around just the change in general.
Again, this is not in order because she had 10, but I'm just kind of bouncing around.
So West Virginia's big question is just Rich Rod being the guy again.
Yeah. Well, it's again what roster moves shape the Big 12 football offseason. Obviously, his hiring and the roster rehabilitation or revitalization is one of those. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll work out either. I'm optimistic. I give them the benefit of the doubt, but I can certainly understand those that aren't buying into the rehab job and bringing your ex back and thinking it's going to be just like when you first got married 15 years ago. I think, that ship may have sailed, but I understand why they went that route. You can see the sentiment, the excitement from the fan base, a fan base that seemed to desperately need that these past few years, just wasn't clicking with Neil Brown. He was good enough to stick around, but not good enough to quench their thirst. And I think by just giving them that taste of Rich Rod and the glory days, and McAfee's back on campus and he's excited, and there's all these other greats that are lining up and vouching for him, it just kind of injected some spirit that West Virginia needed back into the program. As far as on-field results, I don't have any earthly idea of what to expect with them this year. I really, really don't know. I think Mark Gill's a solid quarterback that could probably do pretty well with Rich Rod's, offensive guidance. But there's a lot of question marks for me. Once you get past the feel good of the reunion itself. So yeah, I can see where people are coming from not being very high.
What I do think that will help Nico Marchiol a lot is that Rich Rod's offense is not complete. I mean, look, the quarterbacks always play well, but he does everything he can to help them through the running game, like we talked about with Caden Salter just a second ago. So I do think that will be maybe a benefit that they'll see, is that they'll probably have some pretty interesting. He's got a good eye for running backs, and I think they'll have a good running game overall based on the first year in a new system. So that could be interesting. And yeah, there's a roster overhaul, but I think the excitement and the vibe around them may allow them to kind of exceed expectations a little bit.
Sam Leavitt returns to Arizona State. The roster move was that, of course, they lose Cam Scadaboo, but picked up Army transfer Kanye Udo, who I wouldn't remember when the Army-Navy game. He's a banger. He didn't do anything against the midshipmen. Navy dominated that game, but the fact that Sam Leavitt returns to Arizona State, because that was, I guess, was that up in the air? Did he have an opportunity to leave? He transferred.
I think he's probably one of those Big 12 quarterbacks that got a phone call from Tennessee, along with Sawyer Robertson and Josh Hoover and whoever else got those phone calls as well. I know those two did. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Leavitt was the first phone call, because I think he's the best quarterback in the league going into it. So, yeah, I think it was a big choice to stick around when he probably could have chased money. And that's a great sign for Kenny Dillingham and what he's building. They seem to have a great culture. I think that they're a really solid choice to run it back and be right back in the Big 12 championship game. I do wonder about losing Scadaboo, and it's beyond just the numbers. It's just the impact and the versatility and things that he could do. But you can replace numbers. I just think there's that X factor, that it factor that I don't know they're definitely going to have with his absence, but they still should be very good regardless. And I think Dillingham and the talk about him building this thing up and for the long haul is pretty much what I see. As so long as he sticks around, I think they're going to be a very competent, very well run, and very exciting football program.
Yeah, they. Why would you? I mean, outside of money, which they're giving Sam Leavitt, why would you leave the best quarterback developer in the country right now? Like that's the question that you would have to answer.
Well, you wouldn't. You didn't.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Exactly, you didn't. And so, like, why? Yeah, again, you wouldn't. Arizona State's taking care of him, and there's no reason to leave if you're Sam Leavitt.
I mean, he's coming off.
He can make the playoff. They just did that last year.
Yeah,
they just won the Big 12 last year. They don't need to worry about that.
Yeah, and again, a large chunk of that team is back. Although the Scadaboo loss, you'll see who maybe tries to make up for that. There's part of the come and going of college football, and he was a special player. Just the same thing. Let's try to do a little bit, not rapid fire, but we can hold 5 of these for tomorrow. Kansas State retains Avery Johnson, signs tight end Lincoln Cure, who is of course, big-time name added to the Wildcats in their offense.
He's a big 5-star tight end. I don't get too crazy about freshmen in general, but I think it's skill positions, and when you're going to be probably big focus and X factor in the offense, that there is the potential, as we saw with the Jeremiah Smith, not trying to compare him to that guy, but Lincoln Cure is a 5-star tight end. I mean, he's one of the top players in the country last year, so I definitely think K-State will have some recipes for him to get involved, and he turns out to be one of those freshmen that can fly right away, then, that's going to bode really well for them. I just don't know what their general expectations are for him right out of the gates, right? But he's not a quarterback, so he can come in and be really good right away and not necessarily need to take those developmental steps that a lot of quarterbacks typically have to take. But their quarterback is the key here, and it's all about Avery Johnson and how much better has he gotten. And I think, that's definitely the big question for them is his improvement, and then what they've added in a talent like Cure, for example. K-State's right there on the tips of people's tongues as far as a Big 12 champion, as far as a favorite to get to the title game, as far as the top group of contenders. But they were last year as well, right? And it was kind of a mixed bag. So I think there's good reason to have big expectations, and I would expect, if we're just looking at this optimistically, that, Avery Johnson will take another step as far as his superstar development, or at least that's your hope if you're K-State.
We'll leave for some of the others that Grace had on her list on theathletic.com. The schools that will be brought up at some point tomorrow include Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Arizona, Houston, and also Texas Tech. By the way, Arizona football coach Brent Brennan's going to join us tomorrow. Pretty off the top of the show, Sam Kahn's back with us tomorrow, so we do have that coming your way. But coming up next, Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. He will join us. Then Craig Way. And then also we'll have, again, Scott Draper from the Big 12, who handles football, the office, and also operations. Looking forward to that. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco with fantastic amenities. If you're in this area, and you want somewhere to go that's really, Paul's been there many times with Mama San, right, as far and Amanda, to go and have a great dinner. The amenities are fantastic. The food is delicious. The chefs are top chefs that cook great food. I saw the other day, I was online, and they have, there's going to be a chicken wings night, which, I mean, I'm salad. I love chicken wings. I just can't. That's my favorite piece of any kind of chicken. And of course, that's a huge popular item in sports too, going to a game, watching a game, etc., or just sitting down and enjoying it. And they also have the amenities of hosting any kind of an event, a big banquet, a symposium, guest speaker, maybe even a business type get together where you are trying to share information. They have all of what you need, including they've hosted our Academic All-Stars banquet every year following COVID. since 2021, and it's been fantastic. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium, and also there on game days. When Baylor's at home, the Baylor Club at McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Arturo Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio on TuneIn. Man, I got a hold of him late today. I mean, like really, really late, but always love to have him on. Give us his thoughts on many things. Ari, thanks for your time as always. We mentioned there was the College Football Report put out a 1 through 16 Big 12 ranking starting quarterbacks, and the top 5 were Sawyer, Sam Leavitt, Rocco Beck, Josh Hoover, Avery Johnson, and there's a bunch. Next would be Baron Morton, Retzloff, et cetera, although we don't know much about him. If, in fact, there was a draft and you had to take a quarterback and you were starting a team, maybe it depends on the offense you're going to run, but who would you want with your first pick?
Man, that's a great question. I kind of want to wait for the season to have a larger sample in order to make that selection. I mean, I guess if I said it today based on my projection, I would think that'd be Sam Leavitt, taking nothing away from Sawyer Robertson. But, I think the Leavitt, the growth, and maybe I'm going to contradict myself because Robertson showed a lot of growth last year too. But I think the growth that Leavitt showed last year was so big. I mean, and even speaking with Marcus Arroyo, the offensive coordinator, who was also in his first year last year at Arizona State, like they started off really slow and they built an offense that leveraged Cam Scadaboo. And, and then over time, they put more and more on the plate of Leavitt. And, look, a lot is going to be on his plate this year without Scadaboo. I mean, how are they going to replace Scadaboo? They're not. They're going to have other running backs, and they hope to get some level of production there. And I think Kanye Udo, who's a transfer in, is going to play a huge role in that, but they're not going to have a Scadaboo. I mean, he was the entire offensive ecosystem for them. So they had to redefine and redesign who they were. But when you look at the Sam Levitt we saw early in the season versus the Sam Levitt that played, against Iowa State and Texas, those are two different players. And when you take away your number one weapon in Jordan Tyson, and yet he still put up numbers, I think that says a lot about his ability and his growth. So I think Arizona State did it really smart in terms of, growing slowly over the course of the season, not throwing everything at him from an offensive perspective. And by the end of the year, he was, a masterclass in quarterback play. And he's a guy that wants to get better. I think when you look at the best quarterbacks, some of these guys have the talent and ability, but what separates the greats from the, goods or averages or below averages would be the want to. Do you want to improve? Are you really going to put in the work? Are you going to be first guy in, last guy out? Like it's really easy to say that. It's more difficult to do it. And I think Levitt exemplifies that. But I think you can say the same for a bunch of guys. I think this is a year the Big 12 could get multiple bids into the playoff. They have arguably the best offensive lines in the country. Utah has arguably the best offensive line in the country. Texas Tech has built an incredible offensive line. I think Baylor's going to have a really good offensive line. I think Kansas is going to have a really good offensive line. Kansas State's going to have a really and that says nothing about the quarterback situation. Up and down. There are very few question marks at quarterback here. There are returning guys everywhere. So I think this conference, based on who they bring back at quarterback, what they have at offensive line, should expect to have at least 2 playoff teams this year.
Yeah. Ari, I will say, when it comes to the quarterbacks, I have no problem saying that, at least on paper right now, the deepest quarterback league in the country is the Big 12 today. And that's due in large part to the fact that if you look at some of the teams that ran deep in the playoffs. Texas replacing their quarterback. Ohio State replacing their quarterback. Alabama's replacing their quarterback.
Right, the usual
Georgia's, they're all replacing their quarterback. The Big 12 has all these guys coming back. So that would, to me, I think that's a good indicator of the fact that you could get multiple teams in the 12 this year.
You've got Lenora Sellers at South Carolina. You've got DJ Lagway at Florida. So there are a few, but yeah, when you look at the perennial favorites, you could pretty much every year, I could tell you who's going to be the top 10 of the 2026 preseason poll, because it's going to be the same teams that are going to be in the top 10 of the 2025 preseason poll, with a few exceptions there. But Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, these are the teams that are going to comprise the top 5, top 10 every year. Texas. So I think based in part on the fact that most of those teams have new quarterbacks, not to mention Arch Manning, though he's not new, he's going to be a new starter. Yeah, I think that, coupled with, it's not just the fact that most of these teams don't have returning starters, it's that the guys that are returning in the Big 12 are guys that could potentially be top 10, first round picks. And you start with Sam Levitt, but I think there's a lot of guys that could potentially have huge years in the Big 12 that, aren't even being thought of yet. And look, again, go no further than Baylor. Last year, this time we thought Daquan Finn was going to be their starter. And suddenly Sawyer Robertson emerges in a big way. And now he's, one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the conference heading into the next season. So, there's probably situations like that across the conference as well.
It seemed like in the list that we looked at, everybody is basically coming back, the exception of a few transfers here and there. But you had Taven Jackson, UCF at 16, and I'm using that to lead into, is there a program you have more questions about than UCF? Because they're the one that they had the fun of Scott Frost coming back. So did West Virginia with Rich Rod, but West Virginia seems like they're confident it's going the right direction. UCF, I just can't get a grasp on them at all. Is there anybody you're more kind of wishy-washy or uncertain about than the Knights?
No, and I'm probably going to have them 16th in my Big 12 preseason ranking.
They'll win the championship.
Hey, congrats on their Big 12 championship. Yeah.
But what's interesting is, the ESPN Football Power Index, we talked about the Big 12 rankings today, and just the overall rankings. The FPI had UCF 8th in the league.
Yeah, 8. Yep.
Phil Steele has them in the same spot or similar spot. So I'm kind of confused. Like, what am I missing here?
Yeah, and then Lee Hunter's one of their best players. He's off at Texas Tech now. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't get it.
Like, from what they brought in, what they lost, I mean, I thought the guy – I was surprised that they didn't name Dylan Risk the starter and that they're going into the fall camp with the competition in full speed, because it felt like Risk was going to be the best option they had at quarterback. And he leaves, I think, partly because maybe he felt like he didn't need to compete or whatever. But I mean, when he entered the portal following the spring, it's like, man, they're definitely, I mean, I don't think there's any question they're 16th preseason at the quarterback situation. So yeah, I don't know what I'm missing. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Terry Mohajir, and I think he's a really good athletic director. I am a little bit confused about the Scott Frost hire, maybe even more so than Rich Rod, simply because, like, at least Rich Rod has recent success to go off of. Like, Scott Frost doesn't have that. I mean, he had the failure at Nebraska, and then he certainly has picked up some things, I would imagine, from, being with Sean McVay and for the Rams, spending some time there. But there's recent success that Rich Rod has had running his offense and his style at a different university. A lot of success. Jacksonville State was one of the top offenses in college football last year. So, like, here's a guy in Rich Rod that, again, has the skins on the wall as one of the most influential offensive football minds. By the way, that's what Kenny Dillingham said at spring meetings, not anything I'm saying, of all time. He said that Rich Rod is one of the best offensive football minds of all time in terms of, being influential too, who's proven it recently. And then Scott Frost, it's like, I don't know, there's no recent successes to go off of. And, the last time he was at UCF, it was a completely different story in terms of, being in the American, expectations being lower. So, yeah, I'm with you. I don't see it. I mean, I root for all Big 12 teams. I certainly root for Kansas because that's my motto more than anybody, but I root for all Big 12 teams and want to see success. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't really see much in terms of positives for UCF. Now, with that being said, could have said the same thing about Arizona State last year. But even then, like, Leavitt felt like even he was a better lottery ticket than what they have at quarterback right now.
Ari, the conference, we know with all of what's happening, the settlement is in. There's still the debate about what they're going to do with the college football playoff and how they break down the 16 teams. What are your thoughts that if it does go to the 5 automatic qualifiers or the 5 conference champions, and then 1 through 11 after that, is that good or bad, in your opinion, for what would be next year in the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean, look, ultimately the idea or the notion of, wanting the best teams to get in, like, I think in the spirit of competition, the 4-4-2-2-1 model is a joke. However, I think as you project the next decade, over under 2.5 in terms of Big 12 teams getting in, we've obviously seen a history here where the Big 12 gets snubbed. The Big 12, from a perception standpoint, doesn't stack up to other conferences. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter here. Perception is reality when it comes to a committee. So I don't trust the committee. So, like, on the one hand, I love the idea of not earmarking all of those spots and essentially leaving 3 open spots. Like, I think that's a joke. But I also wonder if you project this out of the next decade, if the Big 12 gets more teams in with 2 automatic bids than they would where they get 1 automatic bid essentially, and then hopefully 1 other spot out of those 11, which would obviously average out to the same in the 4-4-2-2-1 model. But ultimately, like, the reality of this is I'm projecting my thoughts on the current landscape. But yet there's so many factors right now that are going to change what the current landscape looks like. And even we can see it. Like, Arizona State could very well be the next Oregon, as Kenny Dillingham wants to call it, right? I mean, the fact that he's 34, the fact that he's got as much momentum for this program, the fact that he's recruiting at the level that he's recruiting at, and if you're on him for 10 minutes, it's easy to see why he's so successful. Like, I can see that. I can also see, like, NIL and the portal, what Texas Tech is doing previously has never been done before, right? Like, we talk about you have to have the blue chip ratio, 50% of your roster being 4 or 5-star recruits over a 4-year period to win a national title. That's how it's been throughout the entire history of the national championship, the BCS, the last decade of the college football playoff in modern recruiting rankings. But Texas Tech could really throw a wrench in that if they went and, let's just say something crazy, and won a title this year. I don't think that's going to happen. But what if they won the Big 12 and won a playoff game? Would that be a proof that building your roster through the portal is a more viable option than maybe people would initially give it credit for? So I think like there are hundreds of changes that are going on right now in college sports, literally hundreds of them. The biggest ones are obviously the transfer portal, NIL. What will happen now with this settlement, and how will the outside entities still funnel money through the programs, which I believe they still will. And I don't think you can, I don't think there's an open market that you can suppress in our legal system, in our capitalist society, that allows you to suppress an open market. So like, and that's not even to mention the expanded playoff. Like if Arizona State in a 14 playoff last year is not in the playoff, Arizona State makes the playoff in an expanded playoff and they win it, they get close to beating Texas. And that has done so much for their program in terms of forward momentum of recruiting. So like this is a long-winded answer to say, Smokey, that like there are so many factors right now that are going to change all of the dynamics that we believe will stay the same in perpetuity, because that's the way they've been, right? Like the top of the sport seems like it stayed that way forever. And I'm not suddenly saying that like suddenly Ohio State's going to be bad or Georgia's going to be bad. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying like, I think in a world that's completely different in terms of perception, maybe it does work out better for the league. Today, where we sit, where the Big 12 is perceived and how it's been historically, I think the 4-4-2-2-1 works better because it's automatically 2 bids. And I think in that world, it's hard to believe that the Big 12 will get more than 2 bids, but I'm open-minded to the idea that there's so many factors at play right now that are going to completely change the reality today into the next decade.
Ari, I think it's fair to look, we just had very painfully for me, a team go 13-0 and 2-10 in back-to-back years. And that doesn't happen in college football before this era. So will the examples be that extreme? No. But if you told me that once a decade, Ohio State or Georgia ran up against the wall and everybody graduates, or, and then, that quarterback you were hoping would be there when the stud graduates, transferred out because he wanted to start and he's at LSU or something like Joe Burrow was, that you're going to hit the wall a little bit more than you would. Now, the road back is a lot shorter, but it's not impossible to think that, especially given what we saw with the SEC last year, that this brings everybody back to the pack a little bit. And to assume that that's just how everybody's going to be in perpetuity, I think is an incomplete thought.
Yeah, and I think your example of Florida State is really well stated. Like forgetting just about the 2-year stretch, like just look at Florida State a decade ago. Nobody would have believed Florida State would ever spend, basically as long as they've spent being a middling program, with the with the exception being 2 years ago when they narrowly missed the playoff and probably did due to the injury of their quarterback. So like Florida State's a great example. I mean, this is one of the top tier programs in college football historically that, won a national championship, 15 years ago already now with Jimbo? 12 years ago?
Yeah.
So, it wasn't that long ago. And it looked at that time like there was nothing that was going to slow down that train. So yeah, I think to your point, like we think in absolutes, and there are certainly some absolutes about college football, but for the most part, we have to recognize that like college football has existed in this one space forever with the same rules. And like the biggest move that occurred in the history of college football was expanding into the BCS national championship as opposed to like recognizing multiple national championships. And then the biggest move after that was to introduce 2 more teams and have a 4-team playoff. So like NIL, the transfer portal and the role that that's playing in roster management, how you manage your roster based on the portal and who you retain, the expanded playoff, like all of, and again, there's 100 different things that I'm not even bringing up right now that are changes to college football that are going to change the sport and are going to change the dynamic, that the absolutes that we believe will always be there are going to change. They're absolutely going to change. And look, the other thing is the ACC, like that is a ticking time bomb. I know like in the short term, they've gotten that fixed in terms of the sliding scale of Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, Clemson all are going to get more money than everybody else. And like, we'll see over time what that creates, because ultimately I think we're going to have a situation in which the Big 12 will end up being the 3rd conference standing.
I don't really have a question. Paul, did you say 13-0? to 2-10. Is that what you said for FSU?
He did.
13-1.
Okay. No, I was wondering if I heard that correctly or not. Sorry.
The Orange Bowl counts.
Sorry.
The Orange Bowl counts.
I want to be accurate on this show.
That's so mean. Critical.
Yeah.
But the Dragon came out early with that one.
I just want to be accurate. That's
Yeah,
all.
no,
I
you
thought
want to
I
be
heard
a
that.
dick. That's what you
No,
want to be.
I just thought I heard that.
Oh my goodness.
I hope Oklahoma goes 2-10. You feel my pain?
Well, they almost did last year, okay? So they very well might again.
They absolutely might. They absolutely might. Ari, with all that's going on, so many changes, you said that we don't know what's going to be up tomorrow. We saw 5 or 6, like the Title IX filings today. And,
right.
And that was the one thing that I always thought that might not derail it, but really delay it. We don't even know what tomorrow brings, do we?
No. I mean, and I think the thing that was really interesting to me is in talking to many athletic directors, at the Big 12 spring meetings a few weeks ago, they don't really either. And they have a sense of it, but like even many athletic directors I spoke to thought that this, this settlement would be the silver bullet that would sort of end this free for all. And I think to a degree it will, but to a degree it'll open up, all these other avenues. I mean, there's going to be lawsuits, the Title IX lawsuit, right? So they're going to be filing a lawsuit that basically says this is unfair, that you're not going to have equal pay, in your rev share. There's going to be a lawsuit as soon as that Deloitte clearinghouse rejects a deal. I in no way is that going to be held up in court. Like there is just 0% chance that the courts are going to be like, yeah, I absolutely believe that a algorithm will decide what fair market value is. Like there's literally no other area of our society in which an open market is decided by anything other than the free market itself. And you're not going to stop people. You may stop businesses from chasing bad money on investments in players that maybe aren't, endorsing a product that they're asking them to endorse, but you're just not going to stop. Like people can pay whatever amount of money they want to pay for whatever they want. That's kind of how capitalism works. As rich as you are, you can spend money on whatever it is you want to spend and prioritize that. And if that's college football, then you can do that. And as much as you want to suppress that or try to make it even, we've never lived in that world. It feels like a make-believe world that athletic directors are talking about. Nick Saban talking about equity. Like what we've never lived in that world. Even before you could pay, even before they paid players even under the table, you built these monstrosities of stadiums and facilities in order to coax players to go to your university. The only difference now is the universities aren't in as control of the money. But like, I just don't believe that there's the rev share. That's a part of this. But then third-party payments, you're not going to be able to police that. That's capitalism. And it's, again, I'm not a lawyer. Sometimes I play one on the radio, but I just don't see any way in which that's upheld. And so suddenly now you're thrust into a situation where you've got a rev share every year, $20.5 million at a minimum. And now you also have to bring in X amount of dollars on the outside from third parties, whether that be businesses looking for endorsement opportunities or just boosters that want to get in on it. And the idea that you're going to stop that from happening is absurd. And quite frankly, probably shouldn't be stopped from happening.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. It's great to always see you. We'll see you in Frisco here. In about, what is it, Craig? Less than a month? Is that right?
Yeah, 3 weeks. July 8th.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you there.
Guys. Thank you.
We'll, I'm sure, bother you between now and then, too. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, on TuneIn with us today on 365 Sports.
Yeah, we got to go, right? But
yeah,
if you look at that FPI, which is what's being referenced here, because there's all sorts of metrics and graphics and whatever, like this is the heyday for that, right? Is this time of year. But that football power index, which basically gives you a percentage chance that they deem you'll win the Big 12, they have UCF at 8. That is higher than Iowa State. Explain that to me. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know what
they lost a couple receivers. I got it, man. But and whatever else. But that's higher than Iowa State. That's higher than Utah. Okay, Cincinnati, Colorado, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Arizona, and Houston. They all have lower percentages than UCF, and I just don't see it, man. I just don't see where they're going to expect to be all that good. But we'll see. I mean, maybe Scott Frost coming back is the magic recipe.
By the way, Iowa State has a transfer. We'll discuss that on tomorrow when we go back over what Grace Rayner had written.
Yeah, but I'll just say the graphic we showed earlier, the quarterbacks. There's the one that was listed last because honestly, they just picked the guy that has the most college starts that's on that roster in Taven Jackson.
Can't wait to have Scott Frost on to discuss that battle in Frisco.
Are we going to have Scott Frost on?
Absolutely, baby.
Okay. We can just talk about the glory days of Nebraska football the entire time.
97.
You just want us to leave?
97.
Would it bother you if we just left?
No.
Would you notice?
It would bother me if you didn't leave.
Okay, so you want us to help you out with the first part of the UCF stuff.
Yes, yeah.
And then you say...
Yeah, like the guy, yeah.
And then you say 1997, and we'll just get up and go.
And then we'll go. No,
Okay.
I don't even know if we'll bring that up. We might. I have to ask him about I have to ask about him being political after that game by pumping up the Huskers.
Looking on that list again, Haas Haney, when he has no stats whatsoever over Nico Marchiol, is a pretty big slap in the face too as well. But we can debate this and break it all down various times.
I think people just like his name.
I guess. I think Nico Marchiol is a pretty
name.
cool name.
It is a great name.
I think Nico Marchiol is a cool name, and
so
I think he's got a lot more skins on the walls of right now, but I know that's not the determining factor necessarily, so that caught my eye as well. I think, the only surefire thing you could go like, I totally, across the board, everybody gets is Taven Jackson. If he turns out to be some big surprise, then great for him, but like right now, based on what we know, that has to be, I think, 16. So that's just ammunition for Frost and company to use, I guess.
Right, when we come back, we'll hear from Craig Wave, voice of UT, on many things, including the start of the Arch Manning era, and a few thoughts about a guy that has just been a part of college football for a long, long time, and a couple of little changes within the Texas high school football structure, too. That and more. And then Scott Draper from the Big 12 will join us. This is 365 Sports. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Walking out of the gym earlier today, there were hundreds of people who were at camps, youth and adult tennis lessons, youth and adult pickleball, just youth camp outside, getting fit or staying in shape and not sitting on the couch playing video games. Personal training, group fitness classes, it was buzzing. And it's like that every single day. They offer a 7-day free trial to new and local guests to see what they have to offer for you. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, 40 group exercise classes, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. And also, the bonus, well, it's the weekend. You don't work out? Why not? Yes, they have classes on the weekend. All of the free weights and weight machines you would want, a spacious weight room floor, 16 tennis courts, 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts. Begin your journey today. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors. Baylor Athletics Trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302. too.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and Equal Housing Lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
He is the voice of UT Athletics, Craig Way, longtime friend. And of course, what a run it's been, what a year it's been for the Horns, and about to start the Arch Manning era and much, much more. Craig, thank you very much. Let me ask, you've been around, you and I are basically almost the same age, grew up in the business in many ways the same. What are your thoughts about where we are right now with the college football landscape?
Well, and great to be on with you, Smokey. And by the way, you need, if you haven't already been given enough flowers for being now a Hall of Famer, you need to be. So I'll just throw that in there. But with regard to your point, I guess there's a lot of change that's going to be inevitable in college athletics, and really and truly, I think the genesis of it started when there was so much distrust and distaste for what the NCAA's amateurism model had become. I read that story the other day about how Oklahoma in, I think it was 2014, had 3 players that ate too much pasta at a pasta bar for graduation and was ordered by the NCAA to repay $3.83 per student athlete, or it would have been a violation against you. That kind of stuff had just kind of, gone too far. And maybe if, and who knows, my mom was a master at, we should have done this and we should have done that. And I prefer not to think that, but maybe if some measures had gone in earlier, maybe it would not have grown to where it is now exponentially anyway, to where it's just so crazy where we are now with the House settlement, and now the money that's going to be the cap of $20.5 million. But we all know there's going to be a lot more spent on that in collegiate athletics per school, those who can afford it. So maybe it was inevitable, Smokey. Maybe it was going to happen. But I think it probably, because it went so long without proper measures being taken, now the dam has burst, or whatever metaphor you want to use, genie out of the bottle, whatever you want to say about it.
Craig, when it comes to Texas, they've been set up for this for a while. Like they've seen it, obviously facilities have never really been a problem there, or any of that, raising the money. Has that maybe, with SARC and the SEC and all this kind of coming together at the same time, allowed them to hit the ground running and not have to worry about what the actual X's and O's of the rules that haven't been determined yet, that they can just kind of ride the train even forward?
Well, I think it's a great point. And I think also I've heard both Chris Del Conte, the athletic director, and SARC both say that maybe one of the underreported key elements of Texas preparedness for the SEC, because I know we all heard it coming in when the announcement first came down in July of 2021, that they're going to go in, and it was the popular thing of fan bases, and even some media as well said they're not ready for this. They're not ready for that. Oklahoma's not ready for this. And I think they proved last year that they were ready for it. But one of the things that was kind of not really reported on, because there wasn't really much to report, is how they took 2 years to properly prepare. And that's to your point, how they ramped up in terms of fundraising, facilities, the scholarship limits that were raised, everything that they got in lockstep with a lot of that. And I think it did prepare them for what they needed to do in their first year in the Southeastern Conference. And now I think that, it's kind of like when you're coming off I-35 there, and you're coming off 18th Street going south toward Valley Mills, you better hit ramp up pretty quickly. You don't want to stop on the yield trying to get on the 35. You better ramp up quickly, and I think they did that.
Craig, what were your thoughts on seeing softball finally climb the mountaintop last week against a very familiar foe there in Texas Tech? And also, with that box now checked, I know football national championships will always reign supreme, but who's on the clock now? Is it men's basketball? Like, who would you say is the program that's on the verge of being able to break through to the other side?
Well, in order of how you put it, first of all, yeah, it was quite a long way in building. I can remember back in 1998, the second year that softball was a varsity program at Texas, they made the College World Series, and I was actually doing play-by-play for the softball for a few years, and then we got smart and hired a softball play-by-play guy about 9 years ago, and it made a big difference. But they'd come close, and close is a relative term when you were going up against Oklahoma all those years because of what the Sooner softball program, the dynastic program that it had been. But to finally get over the hump, yeah, you're happy for the kids, for the student athletes, for the athletic program. I'm as happy for Mike White as for any of them because he'd been close before with Oregon and just a great guy. And I was very, very happy from them. To your second part, I think the easiest way to look at that is to say, which of the major team sports does Texas not hold a national championship in? And the answer is men's basketball. It's the only one that they don't have a national championship. They've got 3 Final Four appearances. They had an Elite Eight 3 years ago, but they haven't won that national title. The women, of course, won in 1986 under Jody Conrad. Now, I do think you have to look at it a little bit differently. What the ramp up has been, certainly for Vic Schaefer and what he's done with this program. They had 3 straight Elite Eights and now a Final Four. So it's kind of almost like the softball thing, getting closer. And he has another outstanding recruiting class and 2 genuine All-Americans returning. So they're going to be one of the favorites, I think. But they have had more ramp-up time than what Sean Miller is having. He's entering his first season on campus. Certainly the expectations are there. And Coach Miller's got his own plan for what he wants to do and how he'll get there. And yes, it's the only major sports team athletic program that has not won a national title. So that makes it kind of the obvious answer. But by the same token, this is also, again, anytime you make a coaching change, and you guys know this, there's a ramp-up process. There's a building process that needs to take place. And I think Coach Miller will have certainly the time he needs to try to build it.
How the hiring of Steve Sarkisian, the timing of them joining the SEC, and of course he had a part of that. Could they have, I'm not saying picked a better guy, but could it have been more seamless, even though his first year did not go well with what he's brought to the table?
You know, it's kind of funny, Smokey. The day that Sark was announced as head coach, and it was done, so quickly, I was actually at Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas. Texas was playing Kansas that day. It was a Saturday afternoon game. And Texas that day absolutely throttled Kansas. I think Kansas was number 2 in the country, and Texas beat them by like 25 points and wasn't even close. Ask Longhorn sports fans. A lot of them don't even remember that game because that was the day they announced Sark, and it was that triumvirate, certainly, of the university president and Kevin Eltife, the Board of Regents chairman, and then, of course, Chris Del Conte operating as one cohesive unit. That's what they've done when they've hired the major sports coaches over the past few years. And they moved about it quickly, and they had their sights set on one man and one man only. And that's why it worked out the way it did. So to your point about seamless, that part of it certainly was seamless. Sark will tell you that it was a little less than seamless in terms of of how they had to build it. 5-7 the first year, then 8-5, then 12-2, and then 13-2. So it was something else, or 14-2. So it was something else to get to that point where they were going to need to build up again. And I do think that Sark has worked very hard to get the program in position, starting with the talent pool, and then facilities and everything else, and obviously the donations, everything else. It's all a part of that to make it worthwhile and to make it work to where they're now a national contender.
When it comes to this year, Craig, I mean, obviously they were picked very high and for good reason. They have, I mean, they've just been a machine the last few years and they have that talent built up. But do you expect to see maybe, even if it doesn't result in losses, some maybe choppy play at least a little bit? Because these are guys who have not played together a lot. And I think a lot has been like maybe missed by a lot of the national media about this offensive line is essentially all new. And that's a thing that usually takes a couple weeks for everybody to start rowing the boat in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And I also think this, and I think you guys understand this. Anybody that's covered college athletics for a while understands that if your depth, your numbers in the program get up to the level that you want during the course of the season, especially if you're having a successful season like the Longhorns are having during the regular season last year, you get a chance to play a lot of guys and to rotate a lot of those guys. And they did that with the offensive line. Now, do they have a whole front line of returning starters on the offensive front? Nope. But they do have a lot of guys who played a lot last year. It means something. It amounts to something. How much will it amount to down the road remains to be seen. But I think the guys being in the program helps an awful lot. And then they've got some young guys that they think can really help them who haven't proven themselves yet. And therein, I think, lies the key with a lot of successful programs. The mixture, getting in some of those younger, unproven guys, again, mixed in with some proven veterans, whether they've had an awful lot of snaps as starters, I think makes a difference.
Craig, they play in Columbus this week, the defending champions, who, of course, won that semifinal game. I was thinking about this. They opened up last year in Ann Arbor, and they hammered Michigan. I think the first time that they went to Lincoln in the Big 12, they won that game. I think it was Ricky Williams and Mac Brown in '98 and beat them in the Big 12 championship game. They've won in Tuscaloosa with Nick Saban. It seems like and then some of those teams were just kind of not last year. Michigan, Texas was really, really good. They win in those places, don't they? Even if they've been a little bit average or above average. Why is that?
I think a lot of it has to do with there are 2 or 3 factors. First of all, you mentioned beating them in the '96 Big 12 championship game. They were a massive underdog. They were a 21-point underdog going into that deal. And that's the famous quote from James Brown, the quarterback, when they said, you guys are 21 point, you guys are supposed to lose by 21 points. And I was standing there at the Diamond Inn. He kind of shrugged his shoulder. He goes, I don't know, maybe we'll win by 21. Next day, the headlines, Brown says Longhorns will win by 21. It was all of that kind of stuff. We know how that works. But they played that underdog part very well, and they had an offense that could move the ball. Priest Holmes had a massive game that day in St. Louis. From '98 all the way to the time, I guess the last time they had played was 2010. That was all during Mac Brown's time. He went 9-1 against Nebraska. The only loss was in the '99 Big 12 championship after they'd already beat Nebraska 3 weeks earlier in Austin when Nebraska went in at number 3. It was a mix of really good players and good game planning and all those kinds of things. That was something like that. There've been some places they've gone, Smokey, where it hasn't gone well. Notre Dame certainly comes to mind. They got hammered in one game there. They've had some places where it hasn't gone well, but they've also played, as you pointed out, really well in Ann Arbor. They had a really good team, and Michigan, as we found out, wasn't as great as a lot of folks thought they might be because they were a defending national champion. Now, I do not think that applies to Ohio State. They're going to be, if not the preseason number 1, preseason number 2, they are once more a legitimate national championship contender. But I think, on a larger scale, I think they just understand the importance and how big it was. It'll be 20 years almost to the day that Texas went into the Horseshoe in 2005.
Yep.
And Vince Young, the Lima Swede in the corner, and they wind up winning, and that really launched them to ultimately being able to match up with USC in the Rose Bowl and win the national championship. So I think there's a lot of things in play on that. It's going to be a lot of fun to see on August 30th for sure.
We have Scott Draper from the Big 12 in about 5 minutes, but I wanted to make sure we got into a couple of high school questions for you. You were at Charles Bridup's retirement, saw him at the banquet back in May. The UIL, there's a possibility that they have NIL for senior student athletes and the transfer thing. Your thoughts about high school football in Texas? We've seen it change quite a bit over the years.
Yeah, and still evolving, I think. And in talking not only with Dr. Breidup and what a job he did in 50 years as an educator, and he really, Smokey, you and I have talked about this, I think revolutionized the way the public could consume high school athletics in Texas. He is the number one point man to get all the football state championships under one roof. He was the lead dog along with John Heike and some others to get all of them televised. He effected so much change. And I think Jamie Harrison, who's stepping into the role now, is cut from the same cloth. And I think we'll see more of those changes going through. And Jamie even said to me last time we were talking, he said it's an ever-evolving and changing thing. The NIL thing, I think there's going to be enough political clout to kind of keep it where they're talking about, 17-year-old student athletes whose athletic time in their senior year and they're graduating, things like that, to keep it away from the active freshman, sophomore, junior, seasons going through that. I think there's probably enough political clout to keep that separate the way it is. But things with the school vouchers and public versus private schools, there's going to be an ever-evolving process. And it'll be interesting to see how the UIL and the political leaders in the state of Texas kind of keep it all under one roof.
Last question, and Paul, you might have one more before we get to, okay. Alive, this is an impossible question. I was asked in the chat, best player you ever saw live in high school football?
Jesse Armstead.
All right. Dallas Carter, 88. Yep.
Yeah. Best one I ever saw. Now, I've seen great players.
Oh, yeah.
But best on both sides of the ball, best total guy was Jesse Armstead.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. Craig Way, voice of the UT Longhorns, with us on 365 Sports. Coming up next, we'll have Scott Draper from the Big 12. This is 365 Sports. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. A lot of new specials are out. Ted Teague, the general manager, and also the CEO at Allen Samuels, with a bunch of stuff, along with David Gray, who's in charge of all the sales at Allen Samuels. Luxury, power, and presence. The 2024 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. Here, bigger, bolder, and now $15,000 off at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Also, they have this. The wait is over. Throwing down employee pricing. Plus, with all the craziest deals you could imagine, 2025 Ram, 1500 Laramie Crew Cab, and you choose the deal. 1.9% financing for 72 months or $12,000 off MSRP plus 3.9% financing or straight up $16,000 off MSRP. Drive a Ford, GM, or Toyota. Take off $1,500. No need to trade. Need something heavy duty? Allen Samuels right now in Waco. The Ram 3500 4x4 Cummins diesel for just $52,990. If you want a Ram 3500 4x4 legendary Cummins diesel, $52,990. That's the muscle you want. The Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. Take it anywhere. Just a couple of them left on the lot, and it's filled. Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. A great time for Father's Day gift that will wow your father. And that is available on Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected. Get involved. Learn how at Baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Scott Draper, part of the Big 12, joins us. He is the Big 12 Chief Football and Operations Officer. Joins Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak. Good to see you, Scott. Thank you very much. So much going on. I know you guys had meetings down in Florida, and it just seems like there's a lot of things that are going on. Let me ask you this. When you look at the depth of the Big 12 in football, how would you describe it based on it seems like it's always a wide open, wild, wild west, and the last place team in the preseason poll can win it like Arizona State? How do you look at the Big 12 when it comes to football?
Well, first of all, it's good to see you, and hope you're having a great summer. Yeah, great question. You know, Arizona State was picked last in the league by the media last year in the preseason poll. Had a great season and certainly finished first and played in the college football playoff. So for us, when we evaluate the Big 12, when I put the schedule together in the winter every year, it's really difficult to project who's going to be good and who's not going to be good because there's parity across the league. So for us, it's a great thing. That means there's meaningful football every week. That means every game matters. And then when you get into November, last year we had 7 teams that could have played in Arlington in the conference championship game. So I think that's great for college football when you have great football being played every week.
Scott, with the playoff changes that are on the horizon, potentially, if everybody agrees to one, what is the challenge among each individual conference, particularly yours, to make sure that every school is prepared to have competitive teams, to be on the front of everybody's mind? Because every conference but a couple have a 20-year lead on PR and all of that.
Yeah, I think we recognize that fact, right? And certainly that the Big 12, we're 8 new teams in 2 years, so we've got a collection of schools that haven't built that history over time. But that doesn't mean that we aren't committed and our schools aren't committed to playing at the highest level. Our commissioner, Brett Yormark, has been pretty vocal about our position for the college football playoff in terms of earning it on the field. And he says this all the time, that we're willing to bet on ourselves. And we're confident that given the opportunity, we can compete at the highest level. We've proven it. Many of these programs have proven it in their history. We just haven't proven it as a league together because we're 8 new teams in 2 years. So as we look forward to the future, there's no doubt that college football is changing, certainly, and the industry is changing. And I feel confident and know the commitment that our schools are making to be there and will be there every year.
The answer is just winning, right, Scott? I mean, you pretty much just said it there, but we get questions all the time. We wonder ourselves about, like, well, how can they ensure this, and how can they make sure of that, and how can they – you ultimately have to win, right? And that comes with the investment part of it, but that's what's going to change perceptions from networks or from media folks or whatever, is to simply force yourself into the conversation by winning, right?
Yeah, I mean, which obviously, I mean, that's the obvious answer. But I think how you do it and how the collection of schools in our league, all 16 of them competing at a high level every year. I would say that, you know, I've said this a lot, that, and you kind of referenced it. We don't have anybody here that starts the season on second base.
Right.
Everybody starts the season in the batter's box, and I think that's a great thing for college football. And the more that we in the Big 12 can harp on that, the better off I think the industry will be, and college football will be, because I think it's important for us that every school has a chance to be in the championship game, and that plays out every year. So I love the position that we're in. I really do.
So, but do you feel like that if, in fact, you just go out and win, that you're not still behind the curve because of perception, because of tradition and all that? Because that's what seems to be right now top of mind.
Well, this is my 33rd year of college football. I spent the first 19 in the Big Ten at Michigan, and I understand what you're asking. And I would tell you that the ebbs and flows of college football year over year and the perception of certain leagues year over year change. And it's our job, and I know our schools are focused on winning at the highest level every year. They put their resources into it, the coaches, the players that they're bringing into their program. They're trying to build it not just for that year, but for many years. And collectively, we do that over a period of years as a new league. We'll get the respect that we've earned.
Scott Draper from the Big 12 with us on 365 Sports.
How much do you feel that you are like in the Indy 500, but it like you get to the 500th mile, they're like, guess what? It's the Indy 3000 now. When it comes to the ever-changing world of what your job is,
the only thing that's constant in college athletics is change, and so again, I've been around a long time, so seen it evolve. It is a little bit like running on a treadmill, but I would tell you that that's just part of the way college athletics is right now. We're going through a transformational time. The changes that are happening are ultimately going to be positive for the sport, and if we all embrace it and work together. I've said this a lot too, that the four conferences are working together. They want it to work, and they want to find common solutions so that the collective can be stronger. And so we spend a lot of time together. We talk a lot and try to work through the common issues together, and that's a good thing, and I think that's good for college football.
I know the sports year's not quite over yet. The hope is for you guys, Arizona goes to Omaha and wins the whole dang thing, but to have Texas Tech playing for a title and be so firmly invested, Houston playing for the basketball title, obviously they're all in, Arizona State making the big splash, being probably the most talked about team of championship weekend, quite frankly. Just what do you kind of look back on? I know not to reflect so much, but what do you kind of made of this year and sort of the splashes that have been made?
Well, TCU winning the national championship in beach volleyball too, right? So, Utah women's gymnastics playing here in Fort Worth and Arlington, at Dickey's and for the gymnastics championship. So we across the board, the addition of the schools, the new schools into the Big 12 have been remarkable and have added great value. I was in Oklahoma City last Friday. Electric atmosphere, great softball game. Certainly what Texas Tech is doing and what they've done is nothing short of remarkable, and I expect them to continue to do that. And I will be rooting hardest for Arizona on Friday and expect them to continue a great run. But looking back on this year, the theme is really the additions of the new schools. Came in and competed at a high level and without a doubt made us stronger and better.
Scott, how much debate was there or tug of war with you and Brett and others on what is the best playoff format for football in the Big 12?
Well, Brett's done a great job of keeping our presidents and athletic directors informed and on every step of the process. And certainly what our view and goal has always been is that there be an opportunity to earn it on the field, and that it be that, you know, the new college football playoff format is a reflection of every conference and their abilities. And I think he's been outspoken about that. And I think that's the will of our group as well, is that we have the opportunity, if we do what we need to do and we do what we should do, that we have the same opportunities. And so I think that's been clear, and he's talked about that a lot, and he's certainly been open with our membership about that as well.
When it comes to following the 5+11 model, the versus the AQ model, obviously there's like a second cookie on the table, right there, that you can say, well, you can automatically have two cookies. And that for a lot of people says, oh, well, that's what you have to do because there's no guarantee past the one. But is it also saying something that you are betting on the league each and every year, as opposed to just saying like, might as well be as good as it gets?
Well, I think what we've said is exactly what you kind of alluded to at the end, is that betting on the league and betting on our ability to compete at the highest level every year, and giving that opportunity is something that we feel strongly about. I think getting into not getting into specifics about a format, but I think having the opportunity to be able to earn it on the field every year. Every team it's kind of started at the top, but every team at the beginning of the season has the same opportunity if they invest, if they do what they need to do during the season, win games, and have the opportunity at the end to play for a national championship. If every school in the Big 12 can say that, that's a good thing. And I think if every program in the country can say that, that's good for college football. That makes the regular season more valuable. That allows teams to invest and feel that there's a reward for that investment.
You mentioned that everybody's on the same page, or at least it appears to be, when it comes to the conferences and the college football playoff. Do you feel that is exactly the way, based on what Brett Yormark or what you've heard, that the Big Ten and the SEC want to play fair, or is it they got to take care of themselves and whoever wants to tag along, that's fine? And I think it's a very legitimate question.
Yeah, and like I'm not going to speak for anyone else's league. Certainly, I would just tell you that the conversations that I've had and that I know Brett's had with the other leagues is that everyone is trying to find solutions that work for the collective good. And ultimately, it's a difficult thing to try to get over the finish line. So and they're being thoughtful, and that's good. And certainly everyone has their own leagues and constituents that they have to keep in mind. But certainly I think everyone's working hard to try to do what's best for college football.
All right. So you have Arlington wrapped up, I think, right, with the football game until 2030. How quickly or how soon do you start looking at that? And do you see that is ever moving from AT&T Stadium?
Well, AT&T Stadium, and first of all, the Cowboys organization and their staff and the team that we work with at AT&T, the Cotton Bowl certainly helps and operates the game. And I've said this a lot. There's not a better run organization in the country. I've been in a lot of stadiums in a lot of places, and AT&T Stadium is the best in the country. It just is. The care of the building and the care of the staff that's there is second to none. So I don't see us looking beyond AT&T Stadium, and 2031 is certainly a time that we'll evaluate again. But AT&T Stadium is the best in the country, if not the world, and I've been very open about that. I just believe it to my heart.
All right, one other question, if you don't mind. I know it's been brought up, and Brett mentioned that he likes the scheduling the way it is. Why wouldn't the Big 12 and the ACC come up with something that they start playing each other to try to have better, even non-conference games into the future?
Well, I think we're always doing that. I think both leagues are absolutely talking to each other, not just with the Big 12 and the ACC, but the other leagues as well, the SEC and the Big 10. I think it's good for college football for us to play each other, and certainly Baylor and Auburn, opening the season on Friday night on Fox is an example of that. So we'll continue to do that and be intentional about playing the best competition we can play.
Scott, thank you for your time. I know it's busy. Appreciate it. Will you be in Frisco at Media Days?
Look forward to seeing you there.
We'll come up and say hi. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. Scott Draper with us, who is the Big 12 Chief Football and Operations Officer. Some of what we asked, he mentioned, as we've heard from Brett Yormark, and also a few other things. And then questions about the site. I know that always, you could tell that doesn't appear as if it's ever going to leave Arlington. It's great for us. I mean, we're right around the corner. I know when the Big 12 had their championship games, they rotated, Kansas City? Was there one game that they played maybe in St. Louis? I think they played in San Antonio. They've moved it around a little bit, but it does appear as if AT&T in Arlington is going to be there for the long haul, not just 2030. He didn't say extended past them, but it sounds like that will be not permanent, but it appears as if it won't be moving anytime soon. All right, when we come back, the U.S. Open is this week at Oakmont. I was watching the Golf Channel. I really haven't had time. When I'm home, I like to have that on, especially the week of the majors. The course tradition, unbelievable history in Oakmont, Pennsylvania, harder than hell, huge, big, slick, undulating greens, and the rough that's about as high as if you haven't seen your neighbor mow the yard in months. We'll have Rob Bolton on to discuss that with us here in just a moment. Is there anything that he said that popped off to you that you guys want to discuss what he said? Again, it's the same thing. Win. Just win. Craig, you brought up that win. Go win the games when you have a chance to win them.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. And, I think it's good to hear from the Big 12 that, we are betting on ourselves, and so but yeah, those bets have to pay off, though.
I mean, I don't think there's anything too crazy that jumps out at me from that conversation. But, it's good to have Scott on, and I think he just reassured people about their direction and kind of their focus, and they're not just sitting there and taking it or not coming up with their own 2 cents to throw into the mix. There's a cooperative effort, and I think that you've got, a lot of people who are doing the best they can to get the Big 12 in a good spot, and it will all be, ultimately up to the schools to take them a step higher. But so long as they continue to invest, keep chipping away, I think the league's in a really good spot. And I think they got some good people leading the way right now, and there's some exciting things in the future still bubbling up, so long as everybody continues to take care of their business. So, I enjoyed the combo, enjoyed his insights, and hopefully talk to him again soon.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk U.S. Open and a few other things. Paul's top 5 around the corner. Andrew Valade and his poll results, too. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI inside the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 on the southern part of Waco. State-of-the-art imaging machine. I've been in it, believe me, quite a bit. I don't know if it's 4, 5, or 6 different times to have an MRI to see what has hurt me or what has shut me down or just made me feel pretty bad. And sometimes, oh, by the way, it might be a torn muscle or a ligament or possibly what they need to look at when it comes to my spine, the lower part or the top part, cervical, MRI. I had one, in fact, that was the most recent time that I visited idealmri.com. $497 or less every single time, and the average MRI is around $1,100. It can be different in different parts of the country. Idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
We continue to look at some of the teams as we are going through the Big Ten schedules. And the Rutgers Scarlet Knights is where we stop today. Then we'll have Rob Bolton on the U.S. Open at Oakmont. Greg?
Yeah, Rutgers 7-6 last year, just a game under 500 in the Big Ten, and then close things out losing the Rate Bowl to K-State in a very high-scoring, interesting affair there, 44-41 to end the season. But that was last year. This is this year, and this is not a preview, but I do think Rutgers is on a good trajectory, and they got a guy back in charge that knows the lay of the land and knows how to be successful at Rutgers. And so I think the Scarlet Knights are an interesting team to look at, and not just a gimme on the schedule if you're in the Big Ten, but they got their work cut out for them based on the draw that they were given this year. So what are Greg Schiano and the Knights looking at as far as Scarlet Knights, not trying to do the UCF thing here. And Scarlet okay to say, or are we, but the Scarlet Knights and Greg Schiano looking to get back to the postseason and improve upon last year's record. So here's what they're looking at, which is all this exercise is, just taking a look at schedules. On Thursday, August the 28th, it will be Ohio to open things up on the Big Ten Network. Then on Saturday, September the 6th, Miami of Ohio will be a Peacock game. I won't say the networks for every one of these, but they do have their first month of broadcast already lined up. September 13th, Norfolk State. And then on Friday, September the 19th, they will open Big 12 play, Big 10 play with the Iowa Hawkeyes at 7 p.m. on Fox. They're going to be on Big 10 Network, Peacock, Big 10 Network, Fox as far as their first month of the season goes. They'll also bookend that month with a Thursday game against Ohio and a Friday game against Iowa. So a little bit of a wild card there, and they do have one extra Friday game we'll get to in the first half of the season, but we'll, continue on a little further, one more game just to get them into that first bye week, and that fifth game on the schedule before the open date is Saturday, September the 27th, so they'll have an extra day to prepare coming off of the Friday against Iowa as they will travel to Minnesota. Their first road trip of the year comes 5 weeks into the season, and it will be the Golden Gophers there that weekend before they take a break and should be 3-0 in the non-con. And then we get into Big Ten play with Iowa and Minnesota, a little bit more of a guessing game there, but there's the first 5 weeks for the Scarlet Knights.
Yeah, I would think 3-2 is likely what they'll be out of this. But I mean, Minnesota. I mean, could they go and win that game against Minnesota? Yeah, sure, absolutely. But I think Iowa's going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be a tough one, even though it's going to be at home. But they should absolutely be 3-0 out of the first three.
Yeah, they're not 3-0. Then they slipped badly against somebody. But, 3-0, and then we'll see as far as Big Ten play goes. But delving further into that, once they're back from the first break, another Friday game, as I said, it'll be on the road at Washington. So back-to-back road trips after the first 4 games were at home. The Huskies on a Friday night there in Seattle. That'll be followed by the Oregon Ducks. So you get 2 of the big Pac-12 schools there back-to-back. That returns them to a Saturday schedule, which they'll be on the rest of the way. But, yeah, that first half, 2 Friday games and a Thursday game is kind of interesting. I don't know what the number of weeknight games for teams that normally don't play a lot of weeknight games is. Like the MAC, obviously they've got a lot of those. But that's the most I feel like we've seen on a schedule, or it's tied for the most, that many weeknight games. So you'll have that Oregon contest there getting back to the Saturday. Then Purdue on the road on October the 25th, Illinois on the road on November the 1st, and then Maryland at home as they return after a couple of road trips back to the friendly confines. So there you go. Then the second open week right after that Maryland game will leave them with 2 contests to close out the season, which I will get to, and which gives them a very interesting and difficult ending of the schedule. But, yeah, there you go. That second stint at Washington, Oregon at home, at Purdue, at Illinois, Maryland at home.
If you can be 3-2 out of the first part and then go and you're going to probably have to find your next 3 wins to be bowl eligible in here. Oregon and Illinois being in there makes it harder. Washington makes it harder. But, yeah, really looking at that Minnesota game might be a swing game for their bowl eligibility, given just how this is one of the toughest Big Ten schedules I think we've gone through.
My
so
God,
far.
yeah, Iowa, who they have the Washington, Oregon, Illinois. I mean, geez, and that doesn't include what they finish up with. Yeah,
which I want to get to, and that is the final 2 games of the year. After that Maryland game, they take a break, and then how about this? At Ohio State on Saturday, November the 22nd, followed by a road trip, at Ohio State on Saturday, November the 22nd, followed by a home finale against the Penn State Nittany Lions. So they get Ohio State, Penn State back-to-back to close the season. So if they are heading into the final couple of games and they're in need of a win for bowl eligibility, which you hope they're already well past that at that point, but if they're riding a little close, then that could get really dicey there with those 2 closing out your schedule. Certainly 2 of the top programs in any of the rankings heading into next year. Ohio State with some question marks compared to a year ago, obviously, but it's still the Buckeyes. And then Penn State, obviously a team that feels very good about what they've got walking into next season. So, yeah, you'll need 2 weeks to get ready for those 2 games, and you'll have it. So that at least is something that I guess falls correctly for you if you're Greg Schiano gearing up for those 2 in particular.
Yeah, if you're 5-5, you're going to be sweating those last
you're
2.
sweating a bowl trip. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if you're 5-5, or 4-6 at that point.
You're 4-6, you're probably screwed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to beat both of them back to back.
Yeah.
They didn't play either one of those teams last year. They did not play Ohio State or Penn State a year ago.
And then this is one of those things, like, what did you do to get them back to back? Like, how did the computer spit that out? Like, somebody has to eventually, but that just sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've seen.
That's why they gave him a bye.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've seen anybody else with those 2 back to back. Maybe we have. We've gone through so many of these that it kind of all blends together in terms of the details of it all. But that's a bad draw, and it could very well be 2 playoff teams there at the end. I think the expectations are probably that it will be. Oregon. Another big name on this schedule. As far as who they don't play Michigan. That's the biggest name that's not on the schedule. They don't play Nebraska or USC. They don't play Michigan State. They don't play Rutgers. They don't play Indiana. They don't play Northwestern. And I may be missing 1 or 2,
Wisconsin.
but I'm not. Huh?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, they don't play Wisconsin. Thank you. That's another one that they don't play. I was trying to go off of
Wisconsin
memory.
beat the hell out of them last year too.
Yeah, so there's another team that they miss out on. So there's some pretty good brands that they will not play, but they got some pretty good ones. Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. Not sure how many Big Ten teams play all three of those schools as well on a single schedule. But, yeah, this is all a matter of get bowl eligible by early November, or you're going to be cutting it close, basically.
Of the teams they have to beat that are those tweeners, like where they might be among like 8 teams in the Big Ten, they did beat Minnesota last year. They beat Washington last year, and they beat Maryland last year, but lost by 7 in a shootout to Illinois. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. They were hammered. Wisconsin, who last year was beat them 42-7. So that's maybe Wisconsin's best win last year.
Yeah, they're going to have a wild road, I would say, especially given the fact that they beat a lot of those teams last year. I think Washington in particular will be very, very improved.
I think they
compared to last year. Yeah. And so they're wild about the quarterback they got up there. So among other things, but yeah, Jed Fish year 2 and all that. So
they started football back in the late 1800s. Their first bowl team, guess the year. Garrett, they started back late 1800s. What would be their first bowl team?
Give me 1917.
1978.
Oh, damn.
Now, remember, there weren't many bowl games for the longest of time. Greg Schiano was taking them to 9 of their 13 overall bowl games. Had that stretch from 05 to 09 and 11. They've won 3 of the last 4 years they've gone to a bowl game. He just kind of knows what they need and knows, as you said at the start, Craig, the landscape of what Rutgers needs. And he has been fantastic for them.
Yeah, I mean, he is I don't know if there's somebody with an official title of Mr. Rutgers, but for somebody who has no bond whatsoever to that I was going to say franchise, practically is at this point, but that program, he's who I first think of when I think of Rutgers at this stage. And he's had a lot of success there. He's already taken a positive step forward, I think, just based on last year and getting them, into another bowl game. So, yeah, most of their history that we talk about or that people will talk about is the Greg Schiano years. And so to have him there, that gives you hope as a West Virginia fan or as a UCF fan that bringing old guys back who had success previously can bring that magic back to you, or that's the hope at least. And so, Rutgers was very spotty there for a little while in terms of making the postseason, but it's back-to-back years now and finishing above 500. So now you just hope that they can go 8-5 or 9-4 or whatever, the better improved record would be. One of those or even higher than that, whatever you're shooting for. You just hope you don't finish 7-6 for a third consecutive year, because then that just starts to get a little bit old, right? Then you're like, all right, it's cool, we're winning, but we got to get 8 wins. We got to get 9 wins. And so you're hoping to see them take a step up some way or another, I would think, this year.
What's crazy is their first bowl game was 1978. They actually had about 4, 5, or 6 decades where coaches had really good records, better than Schiano's record when he was there for a long, long time. But they just didn't get to bowl games because there weren't many of them available. Greatest player to ever come out of Rutgers. Let me see if I could find that. You guys know who it might be?
Ray Rice.
Retired numbers, Eric LeGrand. He, of course, we interviewed him in the Super Bowl one time when he was injured in that game against Army. Ray Rice might be someone that might be a part of it.
He's notorious now, but
yeah, no,
for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah,
is that still the elevator, or are we still on that, or was there anything after that? I really don't remember.
I'll tell you, I met him at the Big 12 had a symposium on interpersonal violence, and his thing now is talking to people who have been guilty of that about rehabilitating them. So good on Ray Rice that he's trying to be better. So
yeah, I don't think we're always the worst mistake we've ever made defines us. I mean, it can for some people, but I think in his case, if he's out there doing good work and trying to better people and prevent them from making the same mistakes as he did, it doesn't excuse what he did. But I don't think you put him in a box for forever and ever because he was still a young guy and obviously made an egregious decision and mistakes, but he's out there helping people now, then I think that's freaking great.
He told his story, and it lines up with a lot of things. Like, you're kind of a product of your environment, and you do what you see, and And so, yeah, I mean, he's gone through a lot of personal reflection and therapy and all those things to work on himself. So again, don't know how well it's working because I don't spend any time with Ray Rice, but at least somebody's out there doing that. So
Paul Robeson, was a famous Rutgers football player who ended up having a huge impact with his political stances and cultural accomplishments, and of course was a bass baritone concert artist, actor, and also professional football.
Is that from his Wikipedia?
Yeah,
there's no way you just read that off.
No, I mean, but I was looking for some names.
It sounded like AI. It was like an accomplished artist in his background of.
Deron Cherry, was he not a really good player?
He was. There's a list of good players. That Kenny Britt was another one of them. Devin McCourty was another one of them. I mean, they've had some players. I think Ray Rice is probably the most well known. I saw the Paul Robinson note, but I didn't delve into his whatever his background. But I think that's probably a little old for most people. But I mean that's a slew of the names there. Kenny Britt, Devin McCourty, Mohamed Sanu, Ray Rice, et cetera, are some of the greater Scarlet Knights.
The most famous person to come out of Rutgers, though, was James Gandolfini.
Oh, I did not know that. And
he was
no matter what, who else?
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Do you know who his roommate was?
James Gandolfini.
Polly Walnuts.
Yeah, you'd think. No, it was.
Was he Italian?
Yeah, it was Greg Schiano.
There you go.
The head coach. Yeah. So
there you go.
Back when Schiano first got that job, he went and was there on the sidelines, which it's got to be really intimidating when you're the other team. That Tony Soprano's just over there, just waiting for him to fly off the handle. And
that's a loss. There's a lot of them out there of people who were gone too soon that would have made some really cool stuff if they had the opportunity. And I think Gandolfini coming off of Sopranos didn't even scratch the surface of what he could have done, big picture wise. But we still have the Sopranos and some other roles as well. But yeah, that's been a cool note that's been attached to Greg Schiano. I think I hear that every year in some game or another.
I had lunch with a friend last week who is just watching The Sopranos for the first time.
What?
Yeah, and he was just watching it for the first time. Yeah, and like when you smoke, he says what? Like,
come on. You're sitting there doubting what somebody's seen on television recently.
But watching The Sopranos for the first time, and it was funny to me because I had this. I rewatched it during COVID, right before we started this show. I rewatched The Sopranos because there's nothing else on TV. And when I was in my 20s watching it, I remember thinking like how I thought Tony was such a badass. And because I wasn't mature enough to have experienced like all this life. And then I'm watching like the first episode and he was my exact same age. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it changed like the way I perceived it and the way I perceived him. I was like, oh no. There's no good guys.
Does it also change your perception when there's people that did watch it and they still think he was a total badass? That you're like, what were you watching?
I mean, like I was always like rooting for him because he like in my mind is like, well, he's the least bad of them. And then I'm watching like, no, he's kind of the worst.
Yeah,
like, he's just as bad as all of them. You just feel sorry for him because you know his story.
Yeah, but by the end, he's shown all of his true colors. He's the typical heel playing a heel who gets regarded as a baby face because there's so many villains and he's the anti-hero, right? And that's what we've come to like. Prestige TV has lifted all those types of people to be like the new heroes, and so we're rooting for like Tony Soprano and we're rooting for like all these criminal type characters. Walter White, we're rooting for like all these anti-heroes. That's what TV rolled into. Yeah,
it's funny to hear Vince Gilligan talk about Walter White and Breaking Bad and be like, I hope Walter wins. He's like, no, you don't.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. Yeah.
The Office fan, don't ruin it for me. I'm watching The Sopranos. I haven't seen the finish yet.
I mean, I almost did a second ago. I won't. I almost said something that would have been a pretty big shock. I was going to ask though, what is the freaking the statute of limitations? Because that show ended like 12 years ago.
No longer than that.
Yeah. Well, don't make me feel any older than I
watched
am.
The
He
Sopranos
died in 2013. So
really?
Yeah.
I watched
Spoiler.
The Sopranos after it was over.
James did.
I know, I'm kidding.
Cheers, MASH, and a couple of other. I did not watch it until they were like after they had run their course live or part of the network series.
No, hey, and good luck on your first watch of The Sopranos, Office fan. You'll really enjoy it. And again, if you're in your 40s or you're close to it, you'll identify it with it much more because the things he's going through that are not mafia related, exacerbated by the fact he's in the mafia, it hits so much harder because you're like, oh, yeah, no, I've done that. Yeah, no. And then it really made me mad because it's like, hey, it's your 40th birthday. I'm like, do I look like that?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I feel like if we keep talking, we are going to spoil stuff.
Yeah,
So, no, it's a great show. I'm jealous that you're getting to watch it for the first time. He's incredible in it. And, it's let us know when you finish it, what you think about the results.
Let us know in the chat room. Appreciate it. When we come back, we'll have Rob Bolton from the PGAtour.com on the U.S. Open on what appears to be as hard a course as you can play. You hear that a lot, though, and then all of a sudden some parts of the course soften up a little bit, but this one is a beast, and he's next, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for all of your automotive needs. So whether that's trying to get into a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle or get your car worked on, they can hook you up and do all of those different things over at Richard Carr right now. They are great when it comes to customer service, when it comes to all of their different offerings, and they are celebrating our country. Red, white, and blue savings. Right now you can save on all 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock. Qualified buyers can save $8,750 on the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models. They've got electric vehicles like the Cadillac Lyriq. Just for something a little bit different, all-wheel drive, Lyriq offers 500 horsepower, will go 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, and has a single charge distance of over 300 miles. So there's the particulars, the details on a couple of different models that they have over at Richard Carr, but you can get a lot more information over on the website, Richard Carr, that's KARR.com, or you can give them a call. They'll be happy to talk to you, or just go visit them in person, and they will help you get done what you're looking to get done, whether that's, again, a pre-owned vehicle, new vehicle, or just something as simple as an oil change. Locally owned, locally run, celebrating 26 years of business in Waco. They are the people you can count on over at Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy, last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Here we go. It's a week of a major championship. We have seen the Masters. We have seen the PGA. Now it's the U.S. Open. I was watching, as I mentioned earlier, the Golf Channel earlier today, and you hear about the nightmares of playing Oakmont in Pennsylvania. Rob Bolton, PGA Tour, joins us. We'll have Emery, who's listening, but we'll have him join the show himself in just a moment. Rob, thank you very much for your time. So here are some things that I've read from players this week at Oakmont. The greens were definitely faster today than yesterday. Put some marks on some crazy pin locations. 12 par 5, number 12 par 5 is really cool. Can get there in 2, but the green has a crazy front. And over I hear that you better not put yourself in the rough. It could take you a couple of shots to get out. Now, we hear that a lot. Is that the case at Oakmont this week?
I'm going to go ahead and believe that it is because that's what the course, that's how it sets up, and it's absolutely on purpose. The members demand it. When Gil Hance and his crew were done with the restoration 2 years ago, the lament or the worry was the message he walked away from hearing at the town hall was that, Gil, you better have not made this easier. No, he's, with respect, he's retained the difficulty and done so many other cool things architecturally in selecting which holes from which years when the phones built and designed and redesigned and over again the first 40 years of the course's existence, and then brought it to current day. Greens are larger than they've ever been, but they're segmented. It's going to require not only every club in the bag, but the deepest of what's between the ears to get in there and accept every fate and realize they have done this by choice. They are choosing to play this tournament. There are certain people we know in our lives who are positive thinkers, and then there are other people we know in our lives who are not. For me, from that standpoint, that will be exposed. At the same time, there are golfers who absolutely love that challenge from a competitive standpoint. So segregating those thoughts and playing that game over the course of a round on this place will bring out their absolute best. But that's what we expect, not only from the U.S. Open, but from Oakmont Country Club.
Rob, I am often amazed at the U.S. Open that they don't have wild animals running loose.
Robin Williams would love to talk about this one.
Just hey, look.
Oh, there's a tiger.
Yeah, we let out like 3 tigers. They're going to be roaming around. So they could be on 9. They could be on 9. They could be on 18. They could be on 2. We don't know.
Or behind the rough.
But that rough is really high, and they love it. Yeah. So it looks. I mean, I like Rory said he shot an 81 on it last week. Yeah. So yeah, that's not good. And
for the USGA officials listening, you've just given them an idea.
Yeah. Oh, there are some pit vipers in the bunkers when you're swinging. Yeah. So they have the Pew bunkers too, right? The various it's just a gorge. I love the look of it. I want to see pain. There'll be somebody though that goes out and does something silly that kind of, oh my God, this is a lot easier. That I don't. Do you think we say the way the equipment is, Rob? The players are amazing. Could this be an over par champion type week?
Yeah, first of all, I think, Paul, because I am a positive thinker, the fact that there are not wild animals and that there's no pit vipers, certainly I'm enjoying the week. It should be a good time. And yeah, look, I your point about wanting to see pain, here's the thing about, and I didn't call in, or we're not talking to talk about me, but I'm a great example, and here's why. I don't play golf, but I used to, not at a very high level for recreational purposes, but I absolutely love watching it. I love the athletic performance. I love playing fantasy golf, all those other things. So I don't really appreciate the pain like you're going to feel it or want to see it or have them feel it and you see it like I will. I'll want to see the ball get in the hole.
Yeah.
And I think, and this is how I look at this. There's going to be the fan like you, so many of them who are golfers who want that. And I get that. I respect that. But that's not me.
Yeah.
But I'm not a casual fan either who just wants to see, who might tune in because it's Father's Day on the Sunday and, it's the U.S. Open and all of that because it's the preeminent tournament in the sport. And then you're gonna tune in like, why are these guys so bad? And then I'm not interested anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't sell the sport, but it sells golfers on professional golf. So there's a chasm there for me. As far as par, I think par. We'll see what happens on the weekend, but I don't think par will win the tournament after 2 rounds. We'll go from there. I think par is. I think the over under is 1.5 under right now as we're speaking. It might drift into a one half over or half under, half over at some point by Saturday or Sunday, and then the odds will shrink. But
the
I think
greens
right now par gets in the top 5.
Yeah, the greens are massive. They're rectangular or square, aren't they, Rob?
Yeah, I mean they're also segmented. So while they're welcoming on approach, if you're not hitting the right spot, you're not going to end up on them. But I do like that in terms of guys who, if you're in the rough, you're going to be hitting to a larger target. That'll make you fine tune your approach a little bit more than you would if you're in the fairway. But in the fairway, you still have to be fine tuned on approach. So I think there's going to be some disparity. Distance will be helpful. Putting will be helpful, but I think you can miss a little bit on approach because greens to regulation is going to be way down anyway. Par's already going to be a good score. When par's a really good score, that scrunches the field because so many guys can play to par already. So we'll see some surprises as we always do on Thursday and Friday, and then the cream will rise on the weekend. Certainly by Sunday, you probably know everybody on the leaderboard anyway.
Yeah.
But it brings open that opportunity for guys to actually mishit it on approach and kind of get away with it, believe it or not.
Last thing, and if you could answer it quickly so we can get to the draft to see if you're going to win again. Although nobody won the PGA, right? We had one of those disastrous. Yeah. Is this a course where like Rory, who's got to figure out his driver, DeChambeau, others can bomb it, or is that just not going to happen with the rough the way it is?
They can and they can't, depending on the hole, depending how they're feeling, depending on how they're hitting it that particular day. We will definitely see some of that, and we will definitely see some of that from guys you just mentioned and others. Distance with accuracy wins everywhere. Some of these guys already are long, so that shrinks the sample size a little bit in terms of accuracy. But it's going to require the full bag. Okay.
All right. Emory is on with us too, right, Garrett? So there he is, getting ready for is tonight game 3?
Yeah.
Indiana, Oklahoma City. He's all puckered up.
Thunder up.
Now, here's what we're going to do rather than this. Like, Paul, there are 4 pieces of paper here. Pick one. No. Pick up a piece of paper and tell me what it says. This is the first pick in the draft.
Okay. This will be, God, you really crumpled these up. Oh, look at that, Rob.
Rob is the first pick. Here's another one, Paul. Pick another one.
Do we just take all of them?
Yeah, if you want to. I kind of like the fact that you were trying to steal my piece of pizza.
Scooting over. No.
All right, you're taking forever to rub.
Well, I
got strength in my fingers.
Yeah, you crumpled them
Number
up
2.
good. Number 2 is me.
Oh,
Paul.
not up yet.
All right.
Yeah.
The next one means somebody else is 4. Paul, who's number 3?
I'm hoping it's Emory. It's Smokey.
Very mean. I would rather have been 4.
Emory, you are 4.
All right, Rob, here we go. You get the first pick, and then you'll get like the 8th pick and 9th pick. But here we go. Rob Bolton, fire away.
Let me think. Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were about to like maybe change our analyst here for a second.
I was hoping that maybe you had like a tiny stroke.
Yeah,
for just a second,
like
one that clears.
Blaine McAllister.
Try to provide compelling content, guys.
All right, Paul Catalina,
Bryson DeChambeau.
I am going to go. I know his drivers got him all messed up, but I'm still going to pick him. I'm going to take Rory. Emery, you get 2 picks.
I'm going to go with Ludwig and then Tommy Fleetwood.
The grinder. I think this is one of those courses for grinders. So there we go with that. Now back to me, and I will take Straka. Seth Straka up in the power rankings, in my opinion. He's playing great. I'll take Seth Straka. Back to you, Paul.
Just so I can keep with Rob here, that's the goal to beat him. I'm going to say Sam Burns, who's number 3.
Who just won?
Yeah,
he lost in a playoff. But
in his power rankings. So I'll take Sam Burns.
You can't be stealing off his news.
I mean, look, he shouldn't put it on the internet.
All right. So, Rob, you get back-to-back picks.
Well, the joke is on Paul and his Bengal Tigers, because I purposely had Burns 3 for you to take him 7th overall.
You're cheating in chemistry class.
There we go. Well,
so that I get John Rahm with the 8th pick overall? What? Thank you.
All right.
Well, John Rahm, and you get one more. You get back-to-back picks.
Yeah, and feeling pretty good about those 2 guys. So because he's made like 164 cuts in a row, Xander Schauffele is the easy pick, because I don't think he's going to be there for me on the way back. Because with our rules, look, we talked about me having a really good team for the PGA, and I went 2 for 4. So I don't want that again. So I'm gonna stick with the rule to make the cut, and Schauffele's leading the tour, leading the world, and makes cuts made right now. In the hardest course, hardest tournament going, that's the smart play.
Paul, your 3rd pick.
I'm going to go with Keegan Bradley.
Another grinder, the Ryder Cup captain, Keegan Bradley. I will go with, I'm going to go with Morikawa, which means, Emery, you get back-to-back picks.
All right, I'm going a little out there, and I'm going to go Aaron Rye and Corey Connors.
Aaron Rye and Corey Connors, okay. Which means it's back my way. He's red hot, which is dangerous with Ben Griffin. I'm going to go with Shane Lowry. I just love the fact he's a grinder. Is that yours, Paul?
Yes.
I got Shane Lowry.
Yeah.
I had to have a grinder. All right, Paul, you hit it, and then Rob closes it out. I love that I stole him from you. You kept us available.
Yeah, no. As much as I love my fellow Seminole, all right, I'll take Joaquin Niemann.
He was the guy I took last at the PGA, which I thought I had kind of sneaked him in. And all right, Rob, you're the last pick.
Yeah, and had his first ever top 10 in a major.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Lowry was one of the 2 that missed the cut for me at Quail Hollow. So good luck with him.
He's a grinder.
Yeah. So I'm sitting on 2 guys right now, and the first guy I will not take is Tyrrell Hatton, who, Paul, I hope you're sitting down. Believe it or not, he has made 14 straight cuts in the majors.
Wow.
This is not the Tyrrell Hatton who we knew
we don't pick him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't pick him.
Yeah, 14 straight. So if you were going to take Patrick Cantlay, I would have taken Tyrrell Hatton, who is not in my power rankings. But again, with the format of this league, it's so important to make the cut. So I'm going to go ahead and take Patrick Cantlay because you didn't.
All right, there we are. Those who are not
the least
taken,
I could do for that nightmare fuel you gave me earlier with
Tigers and snakes.
No Matsuyama or Nick Taylor or Ben Griffin or Hovland or Batia or Harris English, who's played with Wyndham Clark, who's won an Open. I mentioned Hovland. All right, Maverick McNeely. I was tempted, but not. All right, so Rob, critique us.
So Neiman is the interesting pick. I'm just looking straight down the board here in order of owners. You know, I love the first 3 that you have there, Paul. But Neiman, he needs to hit more fairways. That's the concern I have. Even though he just had his first top 10 in a major, and I have him in other action that can pay me in private leagues and stuff. So I'm very I'm interested personally, but in a short format like this, he's the one guy that concerns me, even though he just won on Sunday in Virginia on Live, and he's 4-time winner. I mean, he's having a hell of a year, and he's a great player, but he's going to have to reel it in on this course, so we'll see what happens. By the way, the fairways I've heard also, guys, unusually more welcoming than they thought they would be when guys arrived. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, of course.
So that favors the distance that you mentioned earlier.
All right.
Smokey, I mean, your team.
Yep.
Yeah, going with Straka. I love that. In the power rankings, of course, Morikawa, I have some concerns, but should make the cut. So Lowry's a question mark, as I just mentioned. And Emery, if my power rankings was based most specifically on guys to make the cut, I think Fleetwood, Ryan, Connors would probably sit somewhere 1, 2, 3. That's how much faith I have in those guys. So we'll see what happens with Oberg, who's on a bit of a heater right now, too. So I really, really like your lineup.
Yeah, I think he kind of turned the corner recently with Oberg. And, okay, now your team, Scheffler, my God, Rahm, Schauffele, and Cantley. I don't know if there's a better team than the one you got because, of course, it's your league and we're living in it.
Something's going to happen. And you know what? You open the segment by saying you're looking for the pain, you're looking for that story, and you probably just jinxed one of my 4 guys. And that's all it takes. I could finish 1, 2, 3, miscut, and finish last.
You know why?
That's what I love about this.
You know why Rob's an optimistic guy? Because he's a Cubs fan, and all Cubs fans are eternal optimists. And Rob, have you gotten Have you gotten your tattoo of Pete Crow Armstrong yet?
Yeah, I got a big giant number 4 on my back. I don't even wear a shirt anymore.
He is amazing. I love watching him. He is a throwback.
Although he made a mental miscue in last night's game against Philadelphia, and I think he was benched as a result of that today. That's my theory.
Wow. Did you guys see that catch in center field by the guy from the A's? What's his name?
Clark.
Unbelievable. Yeah. He's incredible.
Denzel Moore, is that his name?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Rob, thank you very much. We'll see maybe a little bit of carnage. I don't want to see a bunch of guys having to hit it sideways throughout, each hole, but that might be the case depending on what happens. Appreciate your knowledge. It's Rob Bolton, does a great job covering the PGA Tour, PGAtour.com, and also his list of dark horses and those who he thinks have the best chance to win along with other staff on that site. When we come back, Paul Catalina, his top 5, Andrew Valade, and the results from the polls today. And this is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into the Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports. Today, top 5 players to watch in the College World Series. Look, you may be a college baseball casual. I And Garrett, we are not college baseball casuals.
No.
I'm going to walk you through 5 of the players you're going to be excited to watch. Even if you don't like them, like one of them, Garrett will not. Catcher Cade Bodine from Coastal Carolina. This guy, 332, 5 home runs on the season, but a switch-hitting catcher who's always on base and fantastic defensively. Top 50 prospect in Major League Baseball, certainly someone you're going to want to watch, and a really, really fun player and the leader of that team at Coastal Carolina, which quite often happens with star catchers. Number 4, outfielder Brendan Summerhill from Arizona. This guy has 20/20 potential. He's a 358 hitter. He's got 11 steals on the season, only 4 home runs this year, but the pop is coming, and he's developmental right now. Could be really fantastic off into the future. He is a guy the scouts are crazy about because of his defense, his speed, and his potential power. And dude gets on base like crazy. He's going to be a problem for every team that plays the Wildcats. Number 3, Wahiwa Aloy, shortstop from Arkansas. Top 20 prospect in this year's draft. 348, 20 bombs, outstanding defense at short. Crazy good defense at short. He gets all over the place. And he might have been higher on this list if not for one other shortstop who we'll talk about in a second. Good pop, good speed, great average. He is a weapon for the Hogs. Number 2, left-handed pitcher Cade Anderson from LSU. Garrett is swooning right now. 10-1, 358 ERA, 1.10 whip, and 163 strikeouts to go along with a far lower number of walks on the year. His walks and hits, inning picks, like I showed you, 1.10. He is a fantastic pitcher. He's very highly rated in the MLB draft coming up. Maybe even the top pitcher available over guys like Jamie Arnold from Florida State. He is a lefty with stuff, and those don't grow on trees. Number 1, Avia Arquette, shortstop from Oregon State. My guy here is a 6'5 shortstop who likely, when he gets to the next level, will continue to be a 6'5 shortstop. And how about this? 358, 18 bombs for the Beavs this year. Whoa! He is a weapon. He's legitimately scary. I still see him in my nightmares. You will too if he's not on your favorite team in the College World Series. He is the dude to watch in this thing, a very special player, and a transfer from Washington for the Beavs. That's how good Oregon State's program is. They took a guy from a bigger school from their old conference. That's how good they are, and he's a big reason they're one of my favorites to be playing in the last weekend of the College World Series. That's going to do it for this top 5. Andrew Valade's polls, read by David Smoak right now.
All right, here we go. The 2 polls. Andrew Valade with us, King Jiu-Jitsu. Who do you trust more for college football coverage? I would think there's probably ESPN does an amazing job, but I think a lot of people have gotten to the point where they feel like it's very, at maybe more than at times, biased. So they're number 2 behind TNT. I don't trust TNT at all for any college football. I watch the games if they're on TNT. This is not like it's Barkley and Kenny Smith, Shaq and Ernie.
Yeah, I think also here how I feel about this. I think TNT will do a better job, a more creative job of creating a panel and some broadcasters maybe than ESPN has done lately. Like their thing is let's buy somebody else's show. Like their TNT takes if you look at what their hockey coverage is doing, what their NBA coverage is the best, like pre and post, like all of that.
You mean to tell me on throughout the week you're going to be watching TNT?
No. I think you meant it's the CFP coverage because they're both going to have CFP
all right.
games.
Yeah, I still don't think anyone's going to turn to them for college football coverage. They will for the games.
Yeah.
But okay. All right.
No, but I'll say whatever they do will be done with vigor.
ESPN, I think there's a little blowback, a little anger against them. Neither 24%. Also, how should the NCAA address Title IX concerns to ensure fairness? Keep it as it is.
Wow. Got some real feminists in our voting.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm on that bar.
I don't know. I think the best one is add some sort of fun.
Yeah, there does become a conversation eventually where you're asking for money that you didn't necessarily bring in.
Yeah.
So it's like the billions of dollars we're talking about were not softball. Well, now I know that applies to a lot of the men's sports, not football or basketball.
But they're not getting it either.
Right.
So.
But they're not going to have a fight, right? They're not going to go, well, Title IX says.
See, that's where
right.
I'm going to need somebody with a legal mind to explain why Title IX would apply here. Because what Title IX says is that they
going to.
Yeah, exactly.
Given an opportunity to have the chance to play.
Have the chance to play.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about media deals and all that because it's written in the 70s and updated before
what you kill.
Yeah. So, I do think that keep it as is might be a little bit maybe bump up the money and give them a settlement or something like that. But I need somebody to explain why Title IX specifically applies here because this is back pay.
Every time I see one of these headlines, and I don't know all the details and the nuances of it, so just bear with me here. But it reminds me of the way it's presented. Sometimes, at least, it reminds me of the WNBA players' argument of well, the NBA's making all this money, we're underpaid. And it's okay, well, where are your ratings? Where are your ticket sales? Well, now we got them. Look, it's in the last year and a half, in the last year and a half since Caitlin Clark showed up and a combination of other players. So that's kind of how it sounds to me, at least. I know that's not the exact argument, but it's similar in that, you eat what you kill, you go out and you get what you earned. And I do have a question about why a men's soccer player is not necessarily entitled to it, but a women's soccer player would be because she's a woman. That's where it gets all very confusing to me. And so, I'll let the experts and the lawyers kind of explain this as we go along here. But I think the answer to it, to I whispered it to Paul, is it's not going to hold up. I don't think it's not going to hold up.
I mean, they're going to get something out of this because I think pushing it to the limit would be probably a bad legal idea for the NCAA. But again, I don't know how it applies. I really don't. Somebody's going to have to explain it to me because when Title IX was created and then when it was expanded, this wasn't a factor in it. So it's not baked into the rule.
Yeah.
It's not baked into it at all. So
how are they being discriminated against is I don't understand. Yeah, that's the part I don't get.
This is back pay, and the money came from these sports. So I guess maybe they thought that they would just spread it out evenly over every athlete. But there are plenty of.
But that's that blanket equality that some people seem to interpret Title IX as is oh, well, if you got it, I deserve it too. Based on what? Based on existence. And it's no, I don't think that's the way it was ever intended to be.
Look, if they want to give them $1 billion too, what do I care? But I'm just saying that I don't.
The principle of the argument is where is that said that needs to be that way? Yeah. So I don't think
I said keep it as it is. That's what my feedback was.
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to hold a lot of weight, honestly, based on the reaction so far. The pushback on that, I think that's going to be a byproduct of this new world.
And here's the other thing: no one's getting to get any money until this is
absolutely. I think the WNBA trying to bite the hand that fed them. We need more money from you.
I get fighting to get raises because they were probably making a little bit less, and then when you're having to play in Russia and stuff like that, but also trying to get it on the same level.
That's dumb.
Get a raise is one thing, but then hey, I should be paid as much as LeBron. You're well,
why?
Yeah. I mean,
all right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for the polls today. We'll have 2 more tomorrow. We will hear from Arizona football coach Brent Brennan tomorrow. We'll also have Sam Kahn. Some of your favorite segments that we've had with Sam Kahn. He'll be with us tomorrow, and a few other guests as well. For Paul Catalina and for Craig Smoak, Garrett Ross, thank you for running the mothership. Andrew Valade, Emery working on 365 Sports tonight. And thank you, the audience and our sponsors. I'm David Smoak. Good night, 365 Sports.